And welcome to tonight's coverage of the Fix Auto Charlottetown Brazilian Grand Prix at the virtual Interlagos circuit.
The race just had this excitement.
This was going to be a full display of skill.
And it's lights out. We're underway with tonight's Fix Auto Charlottetown Brazilian Grand Prix.
And then that's kind of when all the craziness started.
This race had everything.
If you were to script a real life race, and chances are you couldn't get it as good as that finish.
This one will go down as our most exciting race.
It'll forever be a race that's remembered within the E-Motorsports Network.
We've got a safety car. You do see the rain. Cudmore spin. Darcy Ford's out as they come onto the straight. Here goes your winner. What an unbelievable run here.
Seven rounds down and 7 more to go in the regular season for Season 6 of the E-Motorsports Network NASCAR Series on iRacing. We move on from the paperclip in Virginia last Monday night to now here tonight to what they may call the hub city for a lot of NASCAR teams in real life in Concord, North Carolina for round number 8 of 21 on the 2025 calendar for our series. It is the Zesty Paws 300 at Charlotte Motor Speedway. And thus, welcome back to the broadcast booth. I'm Regan McCauley. I'm joined by Jordy Carher. Of course, Jordy, we are back at the track of Charlotte Motor Speedway in Concord, North Carolina for the longest race on the E-Motorsports Network NASCAR Series calendar, of course, called the Coca-Cola 600 in real life or the World 600. We're doing the World 300, essentially a half version of what they do in real life. 200 laps and 300 miles, of course. They're the first and only time this season with 4 stages, 50 laps each. And of course, these drivers here tonight trying to kind of forget about what happened last Monday night at Martinsville Speedway. Now moving into tonight where, of course, we are to expect a big next-gen update here within the iRacing service where it may be more like its real-life counterpart, per se.
Yeah, 100%. We're looking at a completely different feel from past Charlotte races we've had on the iRacing service. As mentioned, the Season 3 update was released last Tuesday, so You're going to see guys really having to get used to a very different feel with this updated setup. It was supposed to be an updated track as well, but unfortunately that couldn't quite work out this time around. So we will see. Hopefully this doesn't turn into a war of attrition again, but there's only one way to find out. It's going to be a long night, sir.
Indeed, you said, of course, in this update that Charlotte was not part of it. Initially, it was supposed to be. We did learn behind the scenes that a so-called Charlotte.exe completely failed. So it's just the cars here tonight, not Charlotte. They'll be focusing on that for an update in the near future. But of course, before we get into all of tonight, Jordy, in some capacity, we have to recap what happened last Monday, because whatever in God's name that was that we had to broadcast.
Yeah, I mean, it's a short track, so shorter the recap, the better.
Indeed. So it's on to the Valvoline Instant Oil Change pre-race show. And thus, to begin our recap of the Tornado Alley Racing 200 last Monday at the Martinsville Speedway, round number 7 of 21 for Season 6 of the E-Motorsports Network NASCAR Series on iRacing was the 0-0 of Jordan Kalinian out of Salisbury, North Carolina, going to victory lane for the third time this season, his 11th career victory on the series, and winning from the pole as well. He led 98 of 205 laps, won both stages, and claimed the Repulinks fastest lap. Pretty much straight up domination, although there were two other drivers in the field that did lead about a combined 80 plus laps or so. Kalinian did have to go through a couple of mid-race things, but at the start, he was right up there, right up front leading laps, and at the very end, there was no one that could catch him. Of course, there were a bunch of restarts, a lot of yellow flags, of course, with basically almost half the race being under yellow, but regardless, no one was able to deny this driver.
Yeah, I mean, I think if memory serves, that's our first clean sweep of the season in terms of maxing out on playoff points, and not necessarily a surprise that it's our championship leader who was able to survive all the chaos that went down last week.
Indeed. So here are the full results of last Monday's race. Of course, again, Kalinian getting the win. Now third on the all-time wins list within the series. He's one win away from tying Scott Bailey with 12 victories. Of course, Bailey finishing in 5th last week. There were many drivers that had significant jumps from their qualifying position to their race finish, including Scott Bailey, who jumped from 16th to 5th. There was a guy like Mike Marini who went from 12th to 6th. Daniel Cudmore with his first top 10 finish of the season, going from 22nd to 8th. And plenty of drivers that just did not have luck go their way and dropping significantly from qualifying to the race. Guys like Jose Mercado from 3rd to 21st. Charlie Sears started this race in 4th, but fell back to 19th. And Corbin McCauley starting on the front row alongside his championship rival last year in Kalinian. He fell back from 2nd to 16th. There were 4, 5, 6 different drivers that led laps during the race, but of course, as we were talking about, it was all Jordan Kalinian for pretty much the entire race.
Yeah, 100%. And now there were some times definitely where it looked like potentially we were on for a back-to-back with Raymond Hanneman. He was certainly in the mix, ultimately wound up finishing 11th, but ultimately, like I said, Jordan Kalinian, pretty much right place, right time for the majority of how things went down at Martinsville last week. And we'll see if he's able to duplicate that feat here and, add another W onto what's going to be a marathon of an evening.
And you were talking about Raymond Hanneman, of course. He'll be back at it here at an intermediate track, of course. He got his first career victory at Texas a couple weeks back, so he'll try to kind of replicate that success now over in North Carolina versus the state of Texas. Only 17 of 23 cars were left running at the end of the Tornado Alley E-Racing 200. 14 cars finished on the lead lap. The race took an hour and 42 minutes to complete. There were 11 lead changes. Yes, there were 23 cautions, but we are going to move from that entire discussion And into the driver's standings, where in the overall points, which are available on our Sim Racer Hub, Jordan Kalinian leads overall by 72 points over CD Magram, so extends his lead once again. For the best of the rest, drivers that have yet to pick up a win this season, Magram leads the way by 58 points over the cut line. And if we count up all the race winners and then everyone else, Ty Higginbottom of Tornado Alley Racing, the 97, currently holds the 12th and final playoff spot by just 1 point over Jose Mercado and 2 over Mason Tomlinson and Kyle Knoll. Of course, as long as all race winners stay above 20th in points by the end of the regular season, they are in. You can see some drivers in this graphic that are technically below the cut line, but again, as long as they stay above 20th, where you see some of those drivers around more of that area on the right side of the screen, you're all good.
Yeah, I mean, you explained all the ramifications about as well as I could, so let's just continue ramming on through this one, shall we?
Indeed. Now onto the Valvoline Instant Oil Change team standings, where, speaking of Tornado Alley, they have taken the lead after a pretty strong race that was led by CD Magram's second place finish behind Jordan Kalinian. Tornado Alley is leading Hyperdrive and GTR, who are tied. 24 points between Tornado Alley and that tie for second place. Of course, we saw the great start to the season the Hyperdrive had out of Mason Tomlinson, Bryce Fontaine, and Will Kern, but quite the fallback with only Tomlinson showing up to the Martinsville Speedway. Fontaine is out of competition for a couple of weeks, so hope to have him back maybe 2 or 3 weeks or so from 2-9. Will Kern hasn't been in attendance for the last couple of events. And then, of course, nice to see GTR kind of getting back within the mix in there as well with Ercolani, Mercado, and Belmonte.
Yeah, absolutely. And I mean, even like, obviously it's 2 of the top 3 that we take in that particular case. But I mean, even Ercolani had his moments there last week too. Ultimately, it was Belmonte and Mercado who were able to cash in on the GTR side of things. But hey, 300 miles tonight, it might be another opening for something interesting to happen, not just with GTR, but within the overall complexion of our team standings.
And for Ercolani, 6th place finish a couple weeks back at Texas, so he'll look to replicate some of that intermediate success over to here at the Charlotte Motor Speedway. Moving on to the manufacturer standings, it continues to be all Toyota up at the front, extending their standings lead from 192 points to 230. Still dominant, of course, thanks to the Tornado Alley trio mostly in there. Of course, C. Magram, Ty Higginbottom, and Adam Wilson on the top 4, but still adding on some very valuable points in there for Tornado Alley and Toyota as well. Of course, Jordan Kalinian leading the charge. A big 61 points right there after Martinsville. Ford leads Chevrolet for second by a narrow +6. So there's quite the battle going on for that runner-up position in the manufacturer standings. And to wrap up this recap, of course, the Rookie of the Year standings. It continues to be Blake Thronberg leading the charge, but his lead shrinks once again, as even though Raymond Hanneman has 2 less starts on the year, joined us in round 3 at Homestead Miami Speedway, he has been slowly catching up to the 3 car, now 53 points separating the 2 of them. So again, Hanneman continues to make a big early impact here within the series. And of course, all of our other rookies have had their shining moments, especially Thronberg being high in the overall points as well.
Yeah, 100% on that. And again, we keep highlighting the fact that Raymond Hanneman, has that win already. Again, we'd have expectations based on what we've seen of Blake Thronberg so far that he'll wind up in the winner's circle at some point. Ercolani, he's been kind of up and down. You mentioned the strong performance of Texas. Matt McDonald, you can say something similar about his Daytona performance back at the start of the season. So all of these guys have had their moments, and as we're now in the second half of the regular season, let's see if any of them can really shake things up.
Indeed. As you say, second half of the regular season here. We are now, it is June 16th on the bottom left of your screen, the Charlotte Motor Speedway for 200 laps. And then the rest of the way from there, of course, Charlotte, Monza, Richmond to end off the month of June, and then into July where we have 4 races, Indianapolis, Chicago, Darlington, and Watkins Glen to conclude the regular season ahead of the 6th annual Earl Ross Cup playoff set to begin on August 4th at Bristol Motor Speedway, and quite the run that we have going the rest of the way here, Jordy. I mean, Texas, Martinsville, Charlotte, and then, of course, we'll be heading international once again for the second and final time this season at Monza. So, again, we're kind of in the midst of quite a run here in the middle of the regular season.
Yeah, some might call it the dog days of the regular season here now over the next few weeks, and certainly the gauntlet doesn't get any easier, really, the second half. I mean, again, just a monstrous list of tracks here back to back to back. So we'll see who's kind of got the endurance to be able to be consistent over the course of the next 6, 7, 8 weeks to really nail down who's going to be the contenders, who's going to be the pretenders.
In the middle of June, also in the middle of the Fort River Brewing Company in-season tournament. Of course, all the drivers being ranked together back ahead of the Kyle's Fried Chicken and Barbecue 200 at Texas Motor Speedway. That doesn't look to be the right graphic, as a matter of fact. I might have to go and check.
No, I think...
Give it a second. I know where the right one is. Just a bit of a miss in there. There we go.
Hey.
I think we have the right one. Yes. It should be up right now. Now at race 3 of 5 for the in-season tournament. Now 8 drivers remaining. It'll be Kalinian versus Tomlinson here tonight. Scott Bailey up against Raymond Hanneman. Justin Belmonte versus C.D. Magram. Mary Ercolini will be up against Corbin McCauley. So we got a couple of really good drivers going at it against each other, and then maybe some underdogs still within the mix, especially a guy like Mary Ercolini. You know, Martinsville really caused a massive shakeup in how this has played out so far.
Yeah, now, in the case of Ercolani, he benefited more from Texas with Bryce Fontaine not being there at Martinsville last week, but still, you got to be in it to win it. That's what we've been saying all along, and, you know, he's in with an opportunity. It'll be interesting to see how he matches up with Corbin McCauley in this particular configuration, but it's, you know, that could be an interesting one to watch, and really all the other quarterfinal matchups have their own level of spice to consider as well.
Indeed. Of course, we've had the Kyle's Fried Chicken and Barbecue Dash for Cash. We have this in-season tournament. We have something else now to begin here tonight with the Zesty Paws 300 at Charlotte Motor Speedway. Thanks to Tom Janikowski and everybody over at Zesty Paws, we introduced for Season 6 the Zesty Paws Challenge. 3 races across 3 months on June 16th, July 14th, and August 4th at Charlotte, on the streets of Chicago, and at the short track of Bristol Motor Speedway, where the driver that accumulates the most points out of these 3 races is walking away with an iRacing gift card courtesy of the folks at Zesty Paws, which again, thanks very much to them for hopping on as a proud sponsor and partner for Season 6.
Yeah, I mean, between them and Little Rescue, we might have to brand ourselves as the Animal Conscious series here.
Yeah, something like that, as qualifying has wrapped up here within the iRacing service at the virtual Charlotte Motor Speedway, which gets us to the Kyle's Fried Chicken and Barbecue Pole Award winner, Corbin McCauley.
All right, and now the questions begin on whether or not he'll be able to convert. That's been our question all along for the defending Earl Ross Cup champion, and now he's got 300 miles to make good.
So that's his first pole of his career at Charlotte. A former winner of this race, of course, as well back in Season 4. The first ever winner at Charlotte of during the iRacing era. So looking to make it a second victory here within 3 seasons.
Yeah, and I mean, there's going to be a lot of different ways to get things done here tonight. So lots of time to figure out strategies. Let's see who ultimately comes out with the right one and who's able to adapt on the fly.
And for the record, I got a quick screenshot of the qualifying times. It was 0.003 of a second separating the 17 and the 60 for the top spot.
Yeah, I'm looking at them on iRacing here as well, and everyone's within 6.5 tenths that set a time. So that tells you just how close this field's going to be.
Now, obviously, qualifying quick by the looks of it on paper, but a lot of these drivers going into tonight's event, of course, with the next-gen update, saying that it's a lot closer to the real-life counterpart compared to before the update came out. So some drivers saying we might see a little bit more spread out racing, a lot of tight action, at least out of the cars in particular. But by the looks of it here, as you see on the pit road, never mind. But as I was saying, 23 cars strong to go for the win in the 6th annual Zesty Paws 300 at the Charlotte Motor Speedway. The grid camera, for some reason, is on the front stretch.
Well, I mean, hopefully that's not a harbinger of things to come.
Sure, I guess we can go with this. Anyway, it's time to do
Whatever you need.
It's time to do the good old thing of heading into the iRacing voice chat and having a quick talk with these drivers and send them off with the most famous words in motorsports to get the engines fired up for 200 laps and 300 miles at the iconic Charlotte Motor Speedway.
Copy.
Alrighty, drivers, do we have a copy?
Copy.
Alrighty, gentlemen, 200 laps, 300 miles, 4 stages here for the Zesty Paws 300 at Charlotte Motor Speedway, round number 8, the longest race on the calendar. A lot of us know how this race has played out in the past, how long of a race it is. Hopefully you have your sleeping bags ready to go later in the night, probably more so for Jordan and I. But anyways, nonetheless, with all that being said, gentlemen, best of luck, survive this one, and start your engines. And so the engines had been fired up out of 23 of the cars and stars of the E-Motorsports Network NASCAR Series on iRacing. They will roll off, and we will introduce the starting lineup. Let's get the good old vintage music going out of NASCAR on Fox from the early 2000s. Here the cars roll off. The volume lower and head to a better angle here, so that's the button we're looking for. Yeah, so the starting lineup for tonight's event. Starting on the front row, of course, your pole sitter here tonight, courtesy of Kyle's Fried Chicken and Barbecue, the 17 of a former winner of this race, or 2-time Charlotte winner overall in Corbin McCauley. Alongside him is the driver of the 60 car at Apache, New York for GTR Motorsports. That is Justin Belmonte. Row number 2 has your Texas winner, Raymond Hanneman, starting in 3rd out of Ottawa, Ontario. Alongside him is the number 13 of a multi-time intermediate track winner on the series in Jared, Ireland. Row 3 has the 97 of Ty Higginbottom, a former winner of this race in Season 2. Alongside him is his teammate, Adam Wilson, coming out of Laurel, Delaware. Darcy Ford, C.D. Mangrum, 7th and 8th in the 64 and the 1. Scott Bailey in the 48 in 9th place. And Blake Thronberg, the rookie, in the number 3, rounds out your top 10.
All right, let's head to row 6 now, and it's series leader Jordan Kalinian in the 00 starting 11th, and he's got the 32 fellow Championship 4 finalist last season of Charlie Sears on his outside, driving for 499. And moving on to row 7, we have the number 4 of Mason Tomlinson, the Toyota out of Eudora, Kansas, and on his outside, the number 41 GTR Motorsports entry of Jose Mercado out of Kissimmee, Florida. 15th is another GTR entry out of Parsonsfield, Maine, the number 29 of Mario Ercolani. On his outside, one of our North Carolinians in the field from Wendell, specifically the Storm Surge Esports number 15 Toyota. Kyle Knoll starts 16th. Mike Marini qualifies 17th in his number 12 Toyota out of Thunder Bay, but he will be assessed an EOL, which it looks like that's already been reflected. On his outside was going to be Tom Janikowski in the number 18, or in 18th, in the number 93 Chevy of Appleton, Wisconsin. Row 10, we see driver 10 of Jason Butler in the Chevy out of London, Ontario, starting 19th. And it's an all-Canadian row 10 as He's accompanied by Matt McDonald in the number 25 out of Calgary, Alberta. He starts 20th.
And to round out the field, the final 3 cars, it's the 60 and a Rhino Tool, has yet to have a finish above 23rd in the last couple of weeks, looking to finally bounce back here in the longest race of the season tonight. And then making his return is the 80 of Mark Ouellette out of North Bay, Ontario for first year racing. And then rounding out the field, coming off his first top 10 finish of the season, your network founder and operator, the number 2 of Daniel Cudmore, comes from Stanshell, Prince Edward Island for Team Penske North. And so the race analysis for tonight, of course, 200 laps. First and only race this season with 4 stages, 50 laps each. Just like real life with the 4 stages of 100, 100, 100, and 100. Pit road speed is 45 miles per hour. The fuel window is 28 to 32 laps, somewhere around there, rough estimate. And of course, your race winner from last year is the number 7 of Andy Hurdle, who is not in this field. So we are guaranteed a different winner in this year's running of the Zesty Paws 300, aka the World 300 at Charlotte Motor Speedway.
And that could ultimately be something that comes back to bite Hurdle here. He's currently very much in the playoff picture, but missing the one race that has that extra stage and a series that we've been talking about consistently where every point matters, that could come back to bite him when we get to Watkins Glen in about 7 weeks' time. But we're in the here and now, and we are in for the long haul.
It's the Zesty Paws 300 at Charlotte Motor Speedway. We are underway, and already we're in trouble.
Yeah, nope.
And just like that, it's as if we're in Martinsville again.
Well, that was something we were talking about, is guys getting used to the feel of these next-gen cars with the revised setup at Charlotte, because that's something that came with the update last week. And, you know, early carnage, but it looks like everyone is going to get through unscathed here. At least that's what it appears. Just haven't had anyone come around the pit lane yet.
Actually, I wouldn't say it's kind of back to Martinsville. This is exactly what happened at the start of our Texas race.
Oh, goody.
So that's 2 times within 3 weeks with a botched start somewhere within the field. Again, towards, it might have been actually close to the front, if I recall vividly. But of course, we will get the TrackHams22.com replay of that incident earlier in the Zesty Paws 300. Fast forward just a little bit. It started about towards the back of the top 10 with the 00 of Jordan Kalinian, I think. Oh, never mind, it was Jared Ireland ahead, actually. Kalini eventually got into there.
Well, not to mention the absolute hammer job on the outside row, too, which I think is what triggered Ireland spinning.
And there's kind of a chain reaction. I don't think Tomlinson was expecting anything. Kalinian looks to have put on the brakes. Ireland just simply lost it. And then Ford eventually around.
Man, there's a guy who can't catch a break.
Nope.
Yeah, all this talk about it being 300 miles didn't even get 100 feet.
Yeah, hopefully not a foreshadow what's to come. Again, these drivers have been going on and on the past day or so about this new next-gen update and setup. Again, being close to what it is like in real life, complaining of tight machines, potential more spread out racing, not at all like what we witnessed in the last couple of years here at the virtual Charlotte Motor Speedway on iRacing. As you were talking about there with the 64 of Darcy Ford out of Harrington, Prince Edward Island. He hasn't finished in the top 10 since the GTR 250.
Yeah, that's that would be, knowing Darcy the way I do, that would be a maddening run of form. So he's going to be wanting to get on the right side of things here sooner rather than later, because it is incredibly strange to see him outside the playoff picture.
Yeah, not at all like back in your early days before I came along, the domination that Darcy Ford had in the console era, of course, going on to win the Season 2 championship.
Indeed he did.
So towards the back of the field after that incident, we had 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 cars go to pit road. Just 5-second times for Marini and Kalinian. O'Toole at 7. Everybody else was in for 17. There's a 15. Then a 27. Ford was in there for almost a minute.
This is where I ask where you can actually see that.
Oh. Oh, man.
Behind the curtain, ladies and gentlemen.
Try now?
Okay, let's do a refresh on my side. And that, well, it's about as non-existent as the pace car right now. Let's figure it out in a little bit.
I guess we'll have to. But anyways, back to the green. Oh, Macaulay had a sideways moment coming to the line. Everyone else is all good.
Yeah, Hanneman trying to take advantage of Macaulay losing the handle on the restart. Not the cleanest from the 17, it has to be said. And his penance might come in the form of, well, not the wall tap certainly in the back, but it comes in the form of losing the lead for the time being.
It was Ty Higginbottom that had a bit of a clap against the backstretch wall. But it's Raymond Hanneman, your winner from 2 weeks ago at Texas Motor Speedway, to the lead.
And he's certainly proven capable of being able to handle that situation in the long runs especially. So we'll have to see how the 85 is able to kind of get comfortable this time around, but Macaulay's certainly not letting him get away.
By the looks of it, it will be a day-to-night transition as per usual in past World 300s at the Charlotte Motor Speedway. We'll see how things play out with this next-gen update, plus the ever-changing track conditions with the sun going down. And of course, now with this race being 4 stages, the 50, 50, 50, and 50, 8 total tire sets, including the starting set. So maybe what just happened there at the start, that botched attempt to get this race underway, might have done a little bit of things with some drivers' strategies.
Yeah, we'll have to see how it goes. Again, we've got a very long night ahead of us, so still everything to play for everyone who's still in the field, which is, as a matter of fact, everybody. No retirements yet.
Everyone in that incident on not really lap 1 per se. Still in this one. Maybe a little bit of damage, but nothing too significant. Up at the front, the top 2 have gotten away by about a second or so ahead of Justin Belmonte. It is the rookie versus the veteran.
But both very skilled drivers in their own right. It hasn't taken us long to figure that out, as Macaulay looks like he's got a good run out of 2.
And he will clear.
Yeah, just dynamic usage of that modified draft system, it has to be said as well. That's another component of the iRacing update for these next-gen cars. And yeah, Macaulay exploiting that here in the early going, and that's got him back up to P1.
Hooray for dirty air.
Well, we can say that.
Yeah, something like that. Up at the front, but it's mostly single file. There's a couple of battles towards the back of the field. Might as well go back and low. Did Macaulay have a moment?
Well, we've certainly seen a change, but it looks like he might just be able to hang on account of, again, another strong run on that high line now to 2.
Okay, just a big run from Hanneman. And then down to the bottom, so now back live as it looks like the sun's peeking at just a little bit with the sunset on the horizon. The 17 clears back ahead of the 85 by about half a second or so. Still a big pack towards the back.
Yeah, and now it seems like guys have gotten into a bit of a groove after that strange start. And yeah, we'll have to see just how competitive things remain over the course of the evening, because as we saw last year, there's potential for things to happen and potential for, you know, strategies to really play a big part. So everyone's kind of keeping an eye on each other here in the early going.
Well, you say time for things to happen, you just gotta remember 2 years ago, right?
Yes, 100%.
Yeah, whatever the World 300 was back in Season 4, of course, that race taking over 2.5 hours to complete. I believe, if I recall the number perfectly, 15 cautions on the night. We certainly, everybody getting to sleep very late for that one. It may, like some drivers, of course, with different time zones, so maybe most people had a bit of a struggle that night.
Well, I mean, that was guys still trying to figure out iRacing as well to some extent. And I'm trying to recall if that would have been one of the last races that we would have had fast repairs in play for.
And you know what, knowing what happened that night, it makes perfect sense why that change happened.
Yes, and the series is all the better for it.
Indeed. Macaulay's starting to put a bit of distance between him and Hanneman as there was a slap to the barrier. Belmonte's still hanging on for third ahead of Ty Higginbottom. And would you look at this, the 32 of a former IndyCar Series champion and a Final Four driver last year in the NASCAR Series, the 32 of Charlie Sears. Only one finish of 15th or higher back at Texas 2 weeks ago. Other than that, just no luck.
Yeah, I mean, got a respectable starting position here tonight in 12th, and he's, you know, he would have benefited from the green flag incident there as well to grab himself a couple of places, but maybe there's something in this revised setup that's working here for the 32. He's looking pretty good early on.
And remember, the track that's coming up next for the number 32499 Racing Chevrolet is the track where he was able to get that confidence back and going. And of course, got that locked playoff spot as well at Monza.
Rounding into form at just the right time, isn't he?
Indeed. Of course, let's not put the... Is it the cart before the horse or the other way around?
Well, yeah.
It's one of them.
Certainly, yes. Cart before the horse is the applicable phrase there, but I mean, we usually just call it a broadcaster's jinx. Case in point, it just got passed by Thronberg.
Let's not put the cart before the horse in terms of we're at Charlotte tonight. We still have this race to get done and over with. Still plenty of racing left to go tonight here in Concord, North Carolina. Macaulay just over a second in front of the Ottawa, Ontario rookie with a bit of a new look on his Eternal Racing carts. And oh boy! As he goes to pit road hard in the wall is Justin Belmonte.
He wouldn't have wanted to go to pit road. It was the bump that triggered it.
That was a huge error exiting turn 4 just on lap 20.
Yikers Island here, folks. That didn't look ideal from any vantage point as we've got our second caution of the evening.
So Raymond Hanneman looks like he was trying to get to pit road. Might have been a little bit too close for comfort quarters for the 60 of Justin Belmonte and also the 21 of Adam Wilson getting caught up in that as well for caution number 2 on the night. I imagine looking back at the replay, that'll probably look a little sketchy.
That's the thing, though. I highly doubt Hanneman would have hit it on his own there. We're not even halfway through this first stage. I feel like the bump is what pushed him in. As you see, kind of hugging that apron. No, that is, I just looked at the race control. He was, in fact, coming in, so all apologies to Belmonte in that situation.
So actually it was Wilson that took a big hit to the outside with the right from Belmonte, then spinning around.
Well,
so maybe a bit of an early call. Maybe a bit of an early call on the pit window, because again, 28 to 32 laps was the rough estimate I was communicated to by the drivers. But now we're here on lap 21, and practically the entire field is making their stop now. Hanneman came in before everyone else there, 5.9 second pit stop time, and pretty much everyone else coming through, and a lot of drivers making different decisions here. Nearing halfway through stage 1, I think it looks as though Higginbottom and Sears might have gone for just fuel. McCauley was in for 14 seconds, so I'd say that's probably 4 tires, along with Bailey and Kalinian. Tomlinson's at 6.5, Marini almost 7. There's a lot of back and forth through the field.
Yeah, I would say this is just about right for sort of those early stops that you were thinking of, though. Like, as you say, 28 to 32, we're looking at 50 laps each stage, so it checks out, and especially these couple laps under caution, that'll help make things just that little bit leaner.
Of course, we have our interactive live chat on our YouTube channel. Looks like almost 20 concurrent viewers at the moment, so thanks to each and every one of you for tuning in here to round number 8 on Season 6, the Zesty Paws 300 at Charlotte. We have a 22 at Bryce Fontaine in our chat, so at least he is still, it's just pretty much just like last week. He is with us in some capacity, so good to see you tuning in, Bryce, and he just gave us a bit of a little fact that Hanneman was indeed pitting, and he called him multiple times on iRacing chat. But of course, the way that all turned out was a lot more hectic.
Yeah, and I did catch the correction there in the voice chat on my iRacing side of things. So I did clear that up just to be 100% sure on that. And yeah, there's 3 indications of him indicating that he was going to pit. So 100% that was communicated, and I guess at this point we communicate that it appears that Adam Wilson's going to be our first retirement of the evening.
Yes, Bryce. Watching in spirit. I don't blame you for saying killing me, just watching. We hope to have you back in a couple of weeks. He says, shouts to Jordy, by the way, as Raymond Hanneman and Ty Higginbottom get the field back to green. You saw Sears had a bit of a squiggle. I think there was multiple cars there at the field that about had a moment as Hanneman gets the jump on the restart. We saw how many times he got quite the restart jump in the last 2 weeks at both Texas and Martinsville. Oh, my.
Oh, yeah, now that everyone's back to a pack here again, it's just that little bit more dicey. Again, everyone's still trying to figure out the new mechanics behind our revised setups here, and man, this is just, it almost feels, well, yeah, I don't want to say it feels like last week because no one wants to go back there, but yeah, it's tight quarters, shall we say.
Well, speaking of the word tight, you know how these guys deal with such, Kalinian is having issues! Might be was that a tire down?
Well, I was going to say he was caught up in the initial green flag start incident as well, so things just going bad for worse. His luck over the evening is, is that him going again?
Something's wrong on the right front.
was going to say, I don't think that's how you enter pit lane here. So that could be the end of his night as well.
Now, the thing is, we did see, it might have been him, or someone disappeared down the backstretch. So we'll get the quick replay on this one. Yeah, he just flat out disappeared, and then...
Oh.
Go, damn it, something happened when he vanished, and then it just killed him entirely.
Well, I was going to say, you might have had an inside source on that, because it appears that it would be the driver on the other side of your wall that was right there as Kalinian reappeared.
Yeah, Corbin McCauley confirming something on the other side of my wall. So definitely something happened as he vanished. When he came back into view, car was damaged and he had nowhere to go, and thank goodness that didn't cause anything worse down the backstretch and into 3 and 4 as McCauley looking to retake the lead against Hanneman down on the inside, and he will get the job done coming to lap 28.
Maybe that contact is what the 17 needed to just kind of rebalance that car. Look
at him go.
Ireland.
The back end was up in the air as he goes for a spin through the front stretch grass. But he didn't
Not enough for a spin to cause a yellow.
Yeah, so we're still green. Despite that, time for another replay. Okay, there was a bump from behind by Sears, and then just sideways along the apron. Sears might have given him another love tap there. And then finally getting it around, and then a bit of a hop.
Nearly got beached on that inside pit lane wall.
So he's backing, going 17 seconds back of your leader, Corbin McCauley, just now getting through corners 3 and 4. It appears Adam Wilson, after that earlier incident, the first DNF of tonight's race. Belmonte has been in his box for over 7 minutes. Kalinian nearing 2.5.
And I mean, just based on where he got to pit lane from, obviously we saw that disappearance there. There's no indication of a disconnection for the record. But yeah, we'll have to keep a close eye on what's going on with the championship leader.
4 cars deep, battling for the runner-up position as the 17 continues to get away. There was a wall tap from the 4 of Mason Tomlinson as Higginbottom, Hanneman, Scott Bailey, and Tomlinson all within the mix for position 2.
That is a rather impressive chase pack. Unfortunately for them, they're a second and a half back of the guy they're chasing. So we'll have to see if this new drafting system is going to allow them to actually reel McCauley in here a little bit, as we are now at, it'll be 18 laps remaining in this opening stage once we get to the line again. And confirmation, Jordan Kalinian disconnected, so he's our second retirement of the evening.
So that's 2 drivers, your top rookies from last year's rookie class in Season 5 of the E-Motorsports Network NASCAR Series on iRacing. Out early in this one with 31, now coming to 32 laps completed. Ahead of 50 in Stage 1 and 200 for the overall race. And I'd say, with all that being said, as this continues to cycle through, might as well shout out some of our sponsors and partners for Season 6 of the E-Motorsports Network NASCAR Series and get back to you with maybe about 10 laps to go or so in Stage number 1. So we will go side by side for just a little bit.
Mark at Little Rescues, and great organization, and I want Mark to tell us a little bit about responsible ownership in all pets, but especially a little guy that you have here. Could you tell us about Arthur?
Arthur here, he was born a perfectly normal red-eared slider. He has what's known as metabolic bone disease. So he was, over his lifetime, denied proper nutrients and calcium and the basic necessities that a turtle needs to survive and grow properly. So with the compression on his internal organs, this will unfortunately cut his life short. But for now, he enjoys a really great life with the Little Rescue as our premier animal ambassador for animal cruelty and show people what not to do with the turtle.
You know, it's organizations like this that need support. I mean, sure, we all have dog rescues, cat rescues, but when you see a guy like Arthur here, you know, all pets need great care, and this is what the Canadian Pet Expo is about, okay? So come on down, learn about Mark and what he does with Arthur, and support such a great cause, okay? Thanks, Mark.
Welcome back to the Charlotte Motor Speedway as we continue live coverage for round number 8 at 21 for Season 6 of the E-Motorsports Network NASCAR Series on iRacing. The Zesty Paws 300 at Charlotte Motor Speedway, now on lap 42 of 200. It continues to be Corbin McCauley leading the field, 2.5 seconds ahead of Ty Higginbottom, so that is a pair. A former 300 winners. Season 4 and Season 2, respectively. Got a couple battles going on throughout the rest of the field, and we do have confirmation of more DNFs, so it is now Jordan Kalinian, Adam Wilson, and Justin Belmonte all out of the race before the first stage is even done.
Yeah, that's just, again, maybe... I don't want to speculate because I feel like these guys would have put in a lot of time on it, but certainly, you know, in some cases... maybe some folks handling the changes better than others right now, and then just some unfortunate collateral damage in the meantime.
Riding on board the driver that claimed his first top 10 on the year last Monday, Daniel Cudmore.
Yeah, just doing his quiet, conservative thing in the field. Again, the only guy who didn't post a qualifying time here tonight, but just kind of letting things happen in front of him, and now he finds himself in 15th. So staying relatively comfortable here toward the end of the first stage.
He's got the classic Team Penske Menards look on the car. Whoa.
Yeah, I know he's legendarily more of a Rusty Wallace guy.
Yeah, I gotta go along with something of the current generation. But I mean, hey, if he were to go, no pressure, but this would be a hell of a race to do worst to first.
Yeah, that would be perhaps a future topic for E-Motorsports Network Classic Races, which we got a release coming tomorrow.
Indeed we do.
The debut of that series, as a matter of fact.
Yes, the trailer was played there for one final time ahead of tonight's event, of course, going back to Formula One at Brazil.
Indeed so, and yeah, that was a crazy final part of the race for sure. The last quarter to a third of that one, so being able to retell that story was lots of fun.
I only imagine it was. I went through it myself behind the scenes, and I must say, yes, without spoilers, a very cinematic job by the folks who put that together, including yourself.
Yeah, I mean, it's wink, wink, totally not the Drive to Survive vibe. Wink, wink.
Oh my. So with 3 laps to go ahead of the end of this first stage, Corbin McCauley well on his way to a stage victory. I just wanted to go back to the driver repping the sponsor of tonight's race, and of course for the challenge that we announced earlier tonight, of course the 93 of Tom Janikowski out of Appleton, Wisconsin, driving for Big T Motorsports in his 4th sub.
Oh, that is broadcaster Jenks, like, perfect.
Yeah, repping the race's sponsor, something. I was going to talk about how he has 2 top 10s in the last 3 races, and he was just outside the top 10, was running there for a little bit, and then
that happened.
Damn it. Oh,
yes. Although that said, still just outside the top 10 for the moment. And oh no, there he goes down the board.
Into pit road. Meanwhile, back out.
Which is closed right now at the end of the stage, for the record.
Yeah, that's not an ideal situation, but what is an ideal situation, but maybe a bit of a kiss to the wall there to the stage checkered flag, his first stage win of the season, Corbin McCauley.
Indeed so, and we'll just make sure that we've got everything closed down properly. There we go. All right, breathe once.
And then later twice, thrice, and
that better be it.
Froth. Some, I don't know.
Yeah. That sounded dirty.
Oh?
Just leave it alone.
The nice slap is coming up in just a little bit, all right?
It is.
Which, you know what, funny enough, if you were to put together the finishing positions of Tom Janikowski from those 2 top 10s he has recently, they are 6 and 9.
I was going to say, you wouldn't want anything to get between that, but that's just, it's a long night, folks. Let's just try and maintain some form of decorum here.
Okay, we don't want to get too close to Clint Boyer vibes in here.
Indeed not.
Anyways, as everyone heads to pit road under this first stage break, top 10 from stage number 1 by the looks of it: Corbin McCauley, Ty Higginbottom, C.D. Magram, Jose Mercado, Mason Tomlinson was the top 5, Scott Bailey, Matthew McDonald, how about that for him, Raymond Hanneman, Mike Marini, and Darcy Ford. Stage 1, top 10.
Some heavy Canadian content in that top 10.
Indeed.
Which, you know, we might not be the most accustomed to seeing that, but we love it.
Well, if we had a Nations Cup, it would probably be on the same level as what happened in IndyCar last season. Most likely.
Yeah, you're not wrong.
Which our version of that right now is essentially the manufacturer standings, because Toyota out of Japan is, I won't say killing everyone. That might be a little too harsh, but they're doing things.
They're running away with it, yeah.
There we go. That sounds about right. So Macaulay becomes the 8th different driver to win a stage this season, following Jordan Kalini and Scott Bailey, who each have a combined 9. And then there's 5 drivers with a combined 5, 1 each in Justin Melmani, Blake Throlenberg, Raymond Hanneman, Bryce Fontaine, and Jared Ireland. And then, of course, Macaulay joining the mix. We'll see if he'll become the next multi-time stage winner in stage number 2 or 3. There's two stages remaining, not technically just one, or however you want to put it, because technically that third and final stage sort of a deal is really just the race win overall. But anyways,
Indeed it is, but I mean, you look at the guys who are out, I mean, this feels like it could be somewhat open season here over the next 150 laps, no?
Yeah, a lot more of a wide open game. Of course, there's still a lot of drivers remaining in this field who have had past success, whether it's at Charlotte or on intermediate tracks. Literally, your front row is a pair of former Zesty Paws 300 winners. Only one being from the iRacing era, however.
Yeah, that's a fair consideration to make here, but we also, like, Charlotte's also a track where you can get the winners, whether it's stages or races, that you may not necessarily expect. If you recall, we had one Jason Heaney take a stage here at Charlotte last year.
Yes.
After kind of subverting everyone else's strategies. I believe it was stage 3 that he took, so he was looking like a genuine threat there at the end. But then another strategy call is what got Andy Hurdle into victory lane for the first and only time, as we're green again.
Stage number 2 underway. Last lap will be lap 100. So 46 laps to go in stage 2, if my math serves correctly.
Either way, it adds up to a long way to go.
Sure, we'll go with that.
Meaning no one do anything super strange right off the bat. But a great jump from the leader once again. And yeah, Corbin, I gotta say, he's looking pretty comfortable here.
I mean, hey, back 2 years ago, he swept both of the Charlotte races. So it was a little more close for comfort in that playoff race, 3-4 car battle for the win, and an incredible photo finish with, back then, the number 3 of Dylan Baum.
And typically, like, the one thing we haven't really talked about with the updates that we had on iRacing over the course of the last week, usually you'd look at the guys with the higher I ratings as being the ones who are able to adapt a little bit easier. Now, having Jordan Kalini in as one of the retirees already sort of changes that picture a little bit, but generally speaking, that would be sort of the conventional wisdom in terms of trying to forecast or handicap how these races are looking. And I mean, Corbin Macaulay, he's proven his skill on multiple occasions, of course, defending our Ross Cup champ. So not necessarily a surprise to see him out front, but he's got a field that doesn't want him to get away.
You saw that big move a lap ago on the backstretch that Higginbottom made against Magrum from the outside. Great corner exit off of 2 and then just sent it in up high through 3 and 4. So that puts him into 3rd. Charlie Sears looking to make a move to the bottom of Matt McDonald.
Yeah, how about Matty Mack here up in the top 10? Really solid run here so far, and you got to remember, he started this one 20th.
as the Calgary, Alberta native pulled off a 6th place finish to start his E-Motorsports Network NASCAR Series career in the GTR 250 at Daytona. Yeah, something happened there as I was talking. Ever since then, only one top 15 finish at Homestead. Ever since then, hasn't been able to perfectly pull things together, but so far looking so good here with some momentum to start off tonight's Zesty Paws 300, maybe get into the top 10 for the second time.
Yeah, it looks like he's got a pretty good measure of things here so far. Just kind of meticulously making his way through the field here to this point, and sometimes you just got to be in the right place at the right time. How many times have we said that over the years? And maybe a guy like that, number 25, is able to kind of come out of nowhere, so to speak, and grab himself a significant point haul.
Looks like Hanneman and Hegemon might be starting to reel the 17 in just a little bit. They're keeping him not too far ahead, just under 7/10 between first and second place as Sears gets ahead of McDonald for position 7. Hegemon looking to make something happen again on the higher groove, just like he did with Mangrum earlier.
And it seems like there's absolutely something on that higher line, especially into 1 and 2. We saw Corbin McCauley really effective on that as he was battling Hanneman in stage 1, and that's ultimately what got him the lead back whenever the time came. So there could be something to a high run out of that first set of corners.
Of course, Hegemon starting his season off with a 21st place run at Daytona. Ever since, has yet to finish outside the top 15 at a 5-race stretch of top 10 finishes, including a best of 5th at Auto Club. 15th at Martinsville, of course, again, just like everyone else, trying to move on from the chaos that was at Martinsville Speedway last Monday, and we all know about the success that the number 97 team has at the Hub City for real-life NASCAR teams.
I mean, couldn't have said it better myself there, but we'll see if Higginbotham's able to reclaim some of his form from the past couple of seasons, because he's been a consistent guy ever since he joined the series in Season 2, has a win in every season he's competed in, at least one, as a matter of fact. But, yeah, just hasn't necessarily translated to results at the top of the board for him this year, which is why it's strange to think of him as a former champion as the guy on the proverbial playoff bubble as we go into the second half of the regular season.
Well, it just goes to show the parity that has been offered here thus far in Season 6. Again, looking through all of our race winners thus far this year, of course, Kalinian having the 3 victories, but so far the only driver to be a multi-time winner this year. Like, we've got William Kern, a Bryce Fontaine in there, Scott Bailey, Raymond Hanneman. There's still plenty of drivers that still, knowing their success in past years, that still have yet to return to victory lane, like, C.D. Mangrum, a Corbin McCauley, even a Justin Belmonte in there. Ty Higginbottom, you mentioned his name as well. A rookie like Blake Throlenberg, obviously not past success first year with us, but he's been well within the mix many times this year thus far, of course, being 1 lap down at the moment, back in 19th. But as you said earlier, still plenty of racing left to go.
Yeah, I mean, this is your ultimate play the long game vision here, which is, now that we're focused on him there, we were a second ago. Like, I'm looking at, again, Scott Bailey in P7. He's been good on the Roval configuration here at Charlotte, but, with the 2 wins on the console. Oh boy. Ireland into the grass again. And again, there's no luck of the Irish as we stay green.
The carb is a little more spun around that time, but
Looks like
still.
some right front damage there too, potentially.
Huh.
Maybe not. Might have been just the lighting. But yeah, that's just that's a rough night for Ireland here so far. Again, caught up in the incident at the very start of the race, wound up through the grass at that point, and has been through 2 additional times here now, and only one of those wound up under caution. So he's the guy. He's just hemorrhaging time, it seems like, with these incidents where the field doesn't get neutralized. As things get a little spicy there between Mercado and Knoll. Some familiar foes, shall we say.
We know their histories. They like to be feisty drivers, but you always need to, with every series, with every racing series, you need to have those kind of drivers with those kind of racing styles and personalities. Raymond Heineman to pit road.
Okay, well, I mean, that checks out. Remember, he was on his way to pit road whenever he got spun out there to trigger that last competition caution, or in-race caution, I should say. So Hanneman being first to pit, we'll see if this winds up being, undercut territory or overcut. We'll see what kind of a response we get throughout the field.
Yeah, I mean, the last time around, not as clean, a little bit more packed around him. I think there was a little bit more spread this time around, especially behind him. So, a lot better of a situation, a lot better of an outcome for the number 85. Bell, an internal racing machine.
Yeah, and he'll drop a lap down for the time being. But again, things will cycle back here over the course of the next few laps. Case in point, that's Higginbotham and Ford in.
Yeah, a pair of veterans now to pit road.
Pair of former champs.
Indeed.
But yeah, we'll see if that winds up pulling the trigger. Again, only 46 laps under green in this stage compared to the 50. So you can kind of work it out a little bit more here. But I would suggest that, 26 laps on this tank, these guys will be fine.
And how fitting is it? Your first 2 ever winners of the 300 coming to pit road together, as next up, sophomore Mason Tomlinson.
And the lone hyperdrive driver yet to get into the winner's circle this year.
Yeah, top 5 finisher at Daytona. Couple of top 10s ever since at Homestead and at Martinsville last week. Has been relatively consistent. Hasn't been able to kind of have that big finish just yet ever since Daytona. But he is one of those guys that you better look out for him, because he has shown that potential. Just everything, all the perfect circumstances have to come together for a driver like him.
Yeah, I mean, he piled up a decent haul of points at Daytona, like you said, but now it's kind of gradually dropped off. Homestead was a solid finish for him, winding up 8th there. But yeah, ever since, it just hasn't been quite as consistent. Top 10 at Martinsville last week, surviving. Well, surviving is a bit of a strong word for how Martinsville went last week. Enduring everything that went on would be the better terminology, but it's gotten to the point where after that strong start, he now finds himself out of the playoff picture once you account for race winners. So we'll see how that shakes up, as we're going to get a bit of a field shake up here with a few more in pit lane, including our lead. Oh boy.
Replay time.
Well, I mean, we got a little bit of a spoiler of the end result, but how'd we get there?
Oh, the wonderful relationship between him and pit road continues.
A little bit of too fast, too furious there, perhaps?
Well, I don't know if he was trying to replicate what a certain Ryan Newman did for All-Star Race qualifying a couple years back during the Gen 6 era.
Just take a peek out of your headset for a second and see if you hear any consternation on the other side.
I think we're all right. As Charlie Sears now into his pit box, which even though there were cars coming down pit road, making their green flag stops and such, it was still very cool to see Charlie Sears up there in third place for a little bit. And again, we were talking earlier, Monza coming up, the track that he was able to secure his playoff spot at last year in a wicked battle with Jordan Kalinian in the closing laps. Onward to his first career win. On the NASCAR side of things, we all know about his IndyCar success, of course, but if he were to able to get the job done tonight, I won't put the pressure on him for a win, but if it's a strong finish, considering how his second full-time NASCAR season has gone, anything like that would be monumental and a big push for next week.
Yeah, I mean, coming into tonight, 22nd or 23rd, depending on how you look at the tiebreaker, standings-wise between himself and Dan Cudmore, but just nothing has really gone the 32's way this season at all. And second half of the season might be just the restart or refresh that he needs.
Oh! Someone.
I think that was O'Toole.
Yeah, Ryan O'Toole just slammed the barrels.
Oh, man. I mean, we joked about the Homestead barrels whenever that happened, but certainly very less forgiving this time around.
So look at the TrackHams22.com replay. A lot more. That was a lot more gnarly than what happened to McCauley. Wow.
Well, the other thing is I don't see an indicator that he was pitting in. I don't know if maybe it was indicated verbally or what happened, but, there's your end result.
And by the looks of it, there is smoke coming at the front end.
Well, I mean, that was certainly a heavy hit, shall we say.
Well, and within the iRacing service, the barrels don't do anything except just basically your car goes into it and it just bounces right out, essentially. Meanwhile, in real life, there would be a whole mess left to clean up for the safety crews. But this time around, though, no, the barrels are basically a death trap.
That was a solid hit, shall we say.
So we still have what looks to be about 8 cars. There'll be 7 left to cycle through as Jason Butler heads to the pit lane. Mike Marini passed Scott Bailey for the race lead.
Yeah, there'll be a couple of day ones there in Bailey and Marini, just content to swap spots here for a little bit before inevitably coming in. Based on the calculations we've got, I can't imagine either of them able to stretch it, but we've seen crazier things happen.
And since Mike Marini had that EOL, wouldn't he technically be the driver going for worst to first?
I mean, in terms of start, sure. Like, obviously, you'd have to look at, semantics on qualifying positions and all that, but we know where he began his race from.
Yes. Another pack of cars to pit road, including Dan Cudmore, Scott Bailey, Jose Mercado. O'Toole has been in his box for over 2.5 minutes.
No sign of a disconnection yet from him, though.
Well, he didn't do what the 12 car did a couple years back as he heads to pit road. If that helps.
Fair enough. Looks like we're just coming to the tail end of this window here. Ercolani really outlasting the lion's share of the field here. He's coming in now, though. Yeah, I had seen the indicator that he was coming in, of course.
I mean, There are 2 or 3 cars on 35 lap stints, including Mary Ercolini. So as this all cycles out, these 3 look to be your challengers for the Stage 2 win. It's Raymond Hanneman just under a second ahead of Ty Higginbottom, who might in a little bit have a rearview mirror full of Corbin McCauley. And geez, through all that cycling, Charlie Sears is still up front.
Well, I mean, he was very much at the sharp end of the field, like running in kind of that 6th, 7th, somewhere in that ballpark before. But yeah, has to be encouraging for Charlie Sears to see himself in contention at this particular point in the race. Still a long way to go, of course, but you know, just the overall vibes got to be good inside that cockpit right now.
We have had to look at the weather info tonight thus far. Can you give us the correct humidity number?
81.
All right, wow, it is humid.
Yeah, it is. And yet, with all the dirty air and everything that we've been worried about, not a ton of slippage.
Wonder if Mike Hawley might have gotten the wall. There was a bit of smoke of one of those angles we saw earlier, because Charlie Sears just passed him for 3rd.
Yeah, I mean, certainly you do get a puff whenever there's contact with the wall coming out of that corner. And yeah, obviously the proof kind of speaks for itself here right now. But we got ourselves a battle. There it is.
Ty Higginbottom to the lead. Coming to lap 92, now 9 laps to go in Stage 2.
And now has a bit of a buffer as he puts Mark Ouellette 1 lap down, but we'll see the 80s stay high coming through too, and indeed we do.
Charlie Sears is on a mission.
Yeah, he is. Something's working.
Not just yet clear. There might have been a bit of a touch as they're door-to-door going down the front stretch and into turn 1. We'll see who gets the edge ahead. Out of corner number 2, it might be Sears on the inside, but look out for Hanneman to have that run off of corner exit. What will he decide to do into 3? He gives him a push up high. But I think the dirty air might keep them separate, and indeed the 32 stays ahead.
Yep, but it's starting to get a little spicy there now. We're starting to see a little less room even than before, given as Hanneman went really high into the turn there, it seemed.
I think McCauley just got the wall again. Darcy Ford and Jose Mercado having it back closer to the back of the top 10. So
they've never done that before.
Oh, Sears!
Oh, can he
boy.
hang on?
Couple of hops
Okay.
on the apron.
He's slow, though.
I mean, that was a pretty big slap on the right side. Did the commentators curse again?
Yeah, let's see. Is he attempting a rejoin, or is this immediately to pit lane?
It's definitely immediately to pit lane. It's just before the.
It is, yeah.
It's just before the pit road just before pit road closes for the end of this.
Reminder.
Yes, just before the end of this second stage. Now 5 laps to go for Ty Higginbottom. Now 2-second gap between him and Raymond Hanneman. So Higginbottom, unless something happens with him, I don't know if the jinx goes after him this time. Well on his way to becoming yet another different driver.
Or not.
To pick up a stage win. I keep clicking things too quickly. I don't know.
You do.
There's been too many behind the scenes looks. No,
Yes.
we're not Area 51, but I digress.
No, I mean, don't have any races in New Mexico, unfortunately. Maybe Mexico City once iRacing does Hermanos Rodriguez, which I know is on their calendar.
Yeah, that could be a good look for Season 7, perhaps.
Assuming it's ready by then.
Yes. So, Higgy will be coming to 2 laps to go in Stage 2. Looking through the rest of our live chat, we got Academy Sim Racing watching from their Sim Lounge, so welcome into our live broadcast. The Sean O'Neill is cheering on Mason Tomlinson, and Michelle Sykes, assuming that's how you say that name, correct me if I'm wrong, cheering on the guy going for the stage win in the U.S. Air Force Toyota.
Yeah, and he's looking awfully good here right now. That gap up to almost 3 seconds.
Meanwhile, in behind him, Macaulay might be able to challenge the 85 if he can get some good runs going here. Coming to the white flag for the second stage. It's all Higginbottom, now extending the distance to almost 3 seconds. And then Charlie Sears has been in his box for over a minute and a half. Looks like Ryan O'Toole is the next DNF. He has a question mark beside his name on our leaderboard, so 19 cars remaining in the field. Or perhaps 18 with Charlie Sears in his pit box, but coming around for the stage checkered, Mr. Ty Higginbottom.
Okay, did I... No, I didn't miss a cue there, did I? Maybe?
No, top 10 will be getting there.
Because I'm looking at P10 right now.
Yep, there you go. Caution.
But that flag went so early that it threw me off.
Which
Still
flag?
getting used to that side of it, folks. The green and white checkered.
Oh. Well, there's been a couple times before where it hasn't been put up until after they cross the line, so I'm trying to... early's better than late, of course.
Sometimes.
So yeah, another different stage winner on the season. That'd be 9 now, joining Corbin McCauley, and making another driver to join the 1 stage win per driver group.
And with it coming the all-important playoff point should Higginbotham make his way in.
Indeed. 1 point could definitely be a factor as we decide the 6th annual Earl Ross Cup playoff field. Of course, after tonight's 6 races remaining in the regular season, Monza coming up next week with the Pizza Main 180, 31 laps around that road course in Italy on June 23rd, next Monday night. So, judging by the leaderboard from Stage 2, results: Ty Higginbottom, Raymond Handyman, Corbin McCauley, C.D. Mangrum, and Scott Bailey are top 5. Darcy Ford, Jose Mercado, Mike Marini, Mason Tomlinson, and Matthew McDonald rounding out the rest of the drivers claiming stage points. So, yeah, Matt McDonald back-to-back top 10s in there. Darcy Ford, Mercado, Marini. There's a couple of drivers with repeat top 10 stage results.
Yeah, I mean, those are guys who are just feeling good behind the wheel right now as much as anything else. And again, with all the changes that these guys have gone through in their testing this week with the updates, you're starting to see where the preparations really come in, and you're really starting to see the rubber meet the road here, so to speak.
Got a Mark Flott cheering on C.D. Mangrum, who, of course, picked up 4th in Stage 2, cycled out from those yellow flag pit stops into 2nd. So top 2, Tornado Alley Racing looking to build upon their new lead in the Valvoline Instant Oil Change team standings.
And, yeah, certainly we were wondering about them in the early going, this being Tornado Alley still, but kind of rounding into form here.
iRacing pace car lights are off. Everybody double file, ready to go green. Just a couple laps past halfway through the 6th annual Zesty Paws 300, also known as the World 300, of course. And would you at all have anywhere that may or may not say how long this one's been thus far? The session, at least?
Yeah, so elapsed time, 1 hour, 13 minutes to this point.
And remember, it was about 2 hours and just over 40 minutes for 2 years ago in our World 300, so we'll see if we eclipse that. Hopefully not.
Yeah, so that's the time from when qualifying would have ended to now.
And
For those counting at home.
Yes, and looking back to last year's Piping Kettle 300, that took 2 hours and 6 minutes and had 6 cautions compared to the 15 the year prior. And of course, with our race summary so far, 4 cautions, but 2 of them being for stage ends, so only 2 incident related. And with all that being said, we are back to green on lap 105, just past halfway through tonight's event.
And notably this time around, everybody's staying together. Higginbotham not really taking off of the start, maintaining the lead, yes, but not breaking away like we saw the likes of McCauley and Hanneman do on previous restarts.
These next gens up to and just over 190 miles per hour down the front stretch here at the Charlotte Motor Speedway. Top 4 single file. A lap into stage number 3. Oh, there might have been a near squeeze between Ford and Bailey. That's for 4th. Hanneman looking all over the back end of Ty Higginbotham for the race lead. The 97 low, 85 high. Lots of double file action in behind them.
Oh boy, and a tap there out of 2 from
Galaney.
Yes. I just about had that on the fluorescent number, but good eyes on your part.
And again.
And another one.
Yes.
And no, we're not going to trigger the DJ Khaled meme for that. Another one, another one, another one. I felt really bad for doing that, so I almost feel like I need to apologize to the viewers for that. Out of all the things we've said over the years, that's the thing I need to apologize for.
Well, you saying another one is that probably would have been more appropriate last week.
Oh, jeez.
Cautions, precautions, precautions, precautions. Oh, my goodness. Thought McCauley might have been trying to force it 3 wide in there, but Ford is just ahead.
Ooh.
17 stays in behind. He might have had a nearly had a look low, but stays in behind. 64 still at the edge. Ahead of the 48. They got off the quarter fine. Bailey might have had a bit of a kiss. To the outside.
No big deal. Just 3 former champions battling for every inch of track they can find.
And to be fair, despite this next-gen update and some of the whole complaints of cars being tight and dirty air and blah, 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 we have had some pretty solid action.
This has been fun, absolutely.
Like, it's definitely... We're seeing with this update already, these drivers are really finding it a lot more challenging compared to what we've had in recent weeks.
And, I mean, that's ultimately what's going to get the cream to rise to the top here eventually. Just who's able to adapt to that the best.
Ooh. Shutting the door was the 48, but the 17 goes back low. Bailey got the wall a little bit there. Again, kind of the flashbacks back to these two duking it out at Chicagoland 2 years ago. These guys know how to battle it out on intermediate tracks, that's for sure.
Yeah, and throw in a hungry customer like Jose Mercado there for good measure.
Oh. Yeah. Thought Daniel Cudmore was having a ghost moment there, but he's running just fine back there in 12th.
Yep, don't see any indicator of anything within the iRacing voice chat, so looks like it's smooth sailing here for the time being.
Now, we already had our side-by-side done and over with earlier, so I think this time around, in the lead-up to the TrackCams22.com Crank It Up, thank you to the following sponsors and partners for supporting us here for our 6th season of NASCAR Racing and our 3rd on iRacing. Kyle's Fried Chicken and Barbecue, GTR, Nordic Aluminium, Tornado Alley Racing, Zesty Paws, especially for tonight with the challenge and tonight's race. Amara Parker Racing, Valvoline Instant Oil Change, Lil Rescue, Reptile Rescue, Repulinks, and of course, powering the Crank It Up and these incredible broadcast cameras that make each and every one of our live productions possible here on the iRacing service. It's the TrackCams22.com Crank It Up. So again, thanks to TrackCams22.com for powering our Crank It Up and these broadcast angles that you see for each and every one of our live productions on iRacing, and especially for Season 6 of the NASCAR Series on iRacing. We're coming to lap 124 of 200. And also, yeah, good time. We were just talking there during the Crank It Up, getting closer and closer to the green flag pit window, and go figure, early again is Raymond Hanneman.
Yeah, I may or may not have called that, and we're going to see some responses here from the likes of Higginbotham, Ford, Knoll, and Marini incoming as well. So things are about to get busy.
Yeah, a lot of the top cars coming down. Higginbotham, McCauley, the 17 with a lot smoother of an entrance this time, as Hanneman makes his way out. And a point that I wanted to make as part of a discussion we just had there during our little break. You think to the real-life Coca-Cola 600, where Ross Chastain and William Byron made things work despite the aggressive dirty air in that closing stage, those final laps, and Chastain still making that move on the inside, basically, you know, slide job, Dale Earnhardt Jr.-esque sort of a deal. These guys are also really making this work despite this next-gen update. Maybe in their words, making things a tad worse, you know, like the real-life counterpart. But these guys have been still putting on some high-octane action on the racetrack.
I was going to say, maybe we would have suspected a little bit of a cautious feel to it, but, I mean, these guys are just letting the throttle hang here, so to speak, as we've got more activity on pit road, and yeah, things have been looking good here for the most part this first half of the evening, and now that we're into, you know, roughly the 65% range, it seems to be maintaining that same flow, which hopefully is providing an entertaining product for all of you out there.
Indeed, we hope each and every one of you tuned into our broadcast right now are enjoying this one. Academy Sim Racing adding on another comment. It's Magnum Racing from the Sim Lounge in Tampa, Florida.
Okay, so he's a Florida man for this one.
Something like that.
Well, I mean, Florida man certainly has a way of making headlines, so we'll see if he's able to make one here at Charlotte.
And who else but Jared Ireland currently inheriting the race lead?
Just as we predicted after all the incidents that he's been through over the course of the evening.
I don't know, what the third time's the charm for his next slide through the front stretch is a celebration?
It could be. But yeah, we'll see just how long he's able to hang on here. Certainly you have more of the metrics as it relates to stint length than I do, but certainly it looked like he was pushing up that gap on Jason Butler, as it appears those two would be the only ones remaining on the lead lap as they've yet to cycle through.
Yes, of course, the 13 Boot Hill Distillery machine now heading to pit road. I was going to say, last in victory lane in our series on April 16th, 2024 at Kansas. Again, a multi-time winner on intermediates. His wins at Kansas, at Texas, and our past history. Still has yet to pick up a victory at the illustrious Charlotte Motor Speedway, but if you were able to pick up the win here tonight after everything he's been doing with earlier, this would be huge for him and absolutely his biggest win to date.
So we'll see if the 5 or 6 extra laps that Ireland stayed out for will pay dividends at the end of the stage, as we see that appears to be the field coming around here as Ireland rejoins.
So it's only Jason Butler left, as I believe he just made his pit stop. So back out into the racetrack, back to normal now with 20 laps to go in the third stage. Ty Higginbotham, half a second ahead of Scott Bailey.
And I think we saw a decent rejoin there from Ireland, getting up to 5th. So I think that did grab him a couple of spots, because I think he was running like 7th, 8th, 9th before that pit window opened. So staying out those few extra laps up here too have paid a bit of dividends.
How about the number 15 Storm Surge Esports Toyota of Kyle Knoll? He qualified in this race 16th and then 17th and 15th place finishes in the first 2 stages. Now he's up to 3rd.
I mean, he might have done something strange. We know that he's previously been one to opt for alternate strategies. We've seen him on the 2-tire runs before. If he is, Corbin McCauley might take advantage of him right here.
Yes, Higamon and McCauley were...
right?
The 97 and the 17 were both in for 14 seconds. Bailey and Knoll for just under 10, so it looks like certainly different strategies. And of all 4 drivers are kind of, the two driver groups of sorts. As the 17 looks to get by Knoll down low. Knoll, geez, right about along the outside wall, almost Kyle Larson style.
I was going to say I'd be curious to see if Ireland's time was similar to Knowles in the name of grabbing a couple of extra positions here.
Jared Ireland catching back up in behind, so he cycled out back to 5th. Not the lead, but still knowing all the stuff he was through earlier.
Well, like I said, I think before the cycle started, he was running around 8th or 9th, so he was able to grab himself a couple of spots.
Scott Bailey might have a rear view mirror again full of number 17 and McCauley Racing just a little bit, considering those different strategies.
Yeah, and I'm not the least bit surprised by any of this. I mentioned it earlier. This is the guy who's ultimately built for the long run, it feels like, within the E-Motorsports Network. He's, a fine balance of patience and speed. Not necessarily worried if he's further back, just knowing that he'll be able to navigate his way to the head of the field, save for those couple of weeks where he did have some issues, but he's always capable of it whenever you need it.
I know we were looking at, we attempted to look through the entire race summary and also weather info earlier, and we were interrupted, but now we get a full chance at it. So 4 cautions thus far, 13 lead changes, which, I mean, knowing that this new package, this new setup, this whole new update with the next gen, and I mean, obviously there's all the pit road cycling, but still, just saying, not a bad look. 12 laps under caution, 8 different leaders. The Repulinks fastest lap is currently a 29.248 by Raymond Hanneman on lap 6.
Yeah, and we'll have to see if the track is cooled off at all from earlier. Just 1 degree down from where I'd seen it before in the Freedom unit.
Yeah, sir, more than likely has slowed things down a little bit here. That's what we experienced a little bit back at Martinsville last Monday night. So yeah, track temperature at 26 degrees Celsius, air is at 22, of course 78 and 72 in Fahrenheit. Look at this rush at the 17 is underneath Scott Bailey. Jared Ireland's right there to pounce. And
yeah,
they actually
might in on this.
I wonder if they're even maybe catching the 97.
Well, the gap's a second right now. Seeing them work together would be an interesting configuration, shall we say. And yeah, Ireland in that Boot Hill Casino livery, he is looking to cash in on this potentially.
McCauley gets ahead. Now Ireland look to cash in on a higher position. Maybe a podium run in stage number 3. Here comes the 13. Diving it in low with a bit of a slide up and shuts the door on the 48.
Yeah, all clear here, folks.
And now all the 17 is remaining with 10 laps to go in the stage. Looking for his second stage win of the night is the driver that got the last one.
Yeah, I mean, he's felt virtually unopposed throughout this stage as well. Like, that 97 is looking really good here right now.
Coming to 9 laps to go, but don't count Jared Ireland as well. About on the back end of the number 17 Chevrolet. Again, judging off of those pit box times. Different strategy of the 13, but again, there is a difference between racecraft and strategy. If you can pull it together with the 2-tire call compared to a 4-tire call, if you can wheel that thing, despite that, those different strategies, that can make a big difference.
Yeah, and I mean, certainly it would be an industrious call if it was to work out, but, you know, Ireland...
It did, so far.
Yeah, he's making things look good right now.
Great move by Jared Ireland, so it won't be the 17 charging after the 97. Now, you saw him make a big run to the corner.
Well, I mean, that might be the difference in, like, those 5 to 6 extra laps that Ireland stayed out. That may have brought that alternate strategy into play for him to make it feel more manageable toward getting to the final stage caution here, which is coming up.
So now 6 laps to go for car number 97. Look at this, half a second separating the 97 and the 13. Coming to 5 to go. This could get dicey.
This is game on here now. Ireland, yeah, he's got that thing running real good, which again, given everything that he went through in the first stage especially, this is a really strong performance out of the 13, it has to be said.
And a pair of drivers that have been on long winning streaks, or winless streaks, excuse me, since last year. Of course, Higginbottom having previously won in North Wilkesboro on April 30. Yeah, these two drivers have not won since last April. So both of them looking to get back into victory lane. Of course, this is just for a stage. But again, you need all that momentum and those extra points. You need that push to be able to go into the 4th and final stage of a crown jewel race like this, nonetheless, confident.
Yeah,
As here he comes.
And he'd gotten a fantastic run out of 2 to make this possible. We'll see if that inside line's able to stick through 3 and 4. He won't be able to shut the door right away here.
They touched.
Yeah,
I think I heard a reaction on the other side of my room. I might be wrong, but I think I might have heard something from a spectator in behind them as Jared Ireland clears the way with 3 laps to go.
Well, he would have had the best view of it, certainly. Well, the best non-broadcast view. Shout out to trackgams22.com once again.
Yes, sir.
And it looks like we may have another DNF in the form of Charlie Sears, potentially. It looks like a manual disconnection.
Blake Thronberg, too?
Yeah, we'll have to see if his connection's able to get back up to snuff here, but yeah, not looking amazing right now.
That was a big slap from the 17 out of corner 4. As white flag for stage 3. And it'd be yet another different stage winner. It was Corbin McCauley, then Ty Higginbottom, who are, funny enough, right in behind the 13. Next up, it's looking to be Jared Ireland.
Well, that's the thing. Like, these longer runs, it feels like different guys can thrive at different times. And, you know, we're seeing that play out here as there's Ireland taking the flag.
Indeed, and we'll get the rest of the top 10 to come through. Bingo.
There we go.
And you know what? There's your next multi-time stage winner on the season.
Yeah, I mean, it's kind of, you forget there was that early season stage win there. You got to go back to stage 1 at Texas just a couple weeks ago. But that is, second stage win of the year, as you mentioned. And yeah, something seemed to work after that pit stop, which is something that we had mentioned in his previous victories as well, is that he seemed to be on it in terms of setup and feel whenever he was at his best. So maybe Jared Ireland's found something here.
So the top 10 for stage 3 looks to be Jared Ireland, Ty Higginbottom, Corbin McCauley, Scott Bailey, C.D. Magram, top 5. Rest of the top 10, Kyle Knoll, Raymond Handyman, Jose Mercado, Darcy Ford, and Mike Marini.
And again, how about that for Marini grabbing himself another point here at the end of this stage? And for a guy like him, if he's able to grab more of those points, like, all the better for him, because he's one of those guys that's very much still lurking around that bubble, but is gonna need some help. And a night like tonight at Charlotte with the additional stage could very well prove helpful, as now we see pit road getting super busy again.
Yeah, there's this, and then I imagine if things stay green through the 4th and final stage, one more window left.
That's certainly what it looks like here, as Ireland's going to emerge first.
Ooh, McCauley.
Ruh-roh.
Still in. Well, again, remember, there was a wall hit there. I think it was coming to the white flag. I wonder if that might have played a factor. We might get confirmation as we're saying this. Who knows?
Maybe a mandatory damage fix.
Okay, just got it as soon as we were talking about that. He is 3 minutes optional from the wall hit. He knocked his toe out.
I mean, not ideal to say the very least, but if there's a time for that to happen, between stages, not the worst.
Indeed. So as the cars continue to pace, in just a moment we will be back to green flag racing for our 4th and final stage in the 6th annual Zesty Paws 300. We might as well one more time ahead of the release date tomorrow for the first edition of E-Motorsports Network Classic Races play the trailer for Formula One at Brazil.
And welcome to tonight's coverage of the Fix Auto Charlottetown Brazilian Grand Prix at the virtual Interlagos circuit.
The race just had this excitement. This was going to be a full display of skill.
And it's lights out. We're underway with tonight's Fix Auto Charlottetown Brazilian Grand Prix.
And then that's kind of when all the craziness started.
This race had everything.
If you were to script a real-life race, chances are you couldn't get it as good as that finish.
This one will go down as our most exciting race.
It'll forever be a race that's remembered within the E-Motorsports Network.
We've got a safety car. You do see the rain. Cudmore spin. Darcy Ford's out as they come onto the straight. Here goes your winner. What an unbelievable run here.
Well, Jordy, you excited for that to come out tomorrow?
I am. I mean, there was a lot of work that went into that. Significant shout out to Dan Cudmore for all of the editing that went into that, all the time investment to make sure all the story beats were right. And yeah, 9 a.m. tomorrow morning in the Eastern time zone is when you can expect that. But we got some business to tend to here first.
Stage 4 and final stage for the Zesty Paws 300 at Charlotte Motor Speedway. Last chance to go for a crown jewel win on the E-Motorsports Network NASCAR Series. Jared Ireland leading the field back to green. Single file, top 3.
You got to think everybody's on level footing here now after that series of pit stops within that stage caution. So, level footing. Let's see who's going to emerge here over the next 45 laps.
Look at CD Magrum with a big run to the outside, looking to challenge Jared Ireland for the early lead here in this final stage. Ty Higginbottom barely squeezing in behind his teammate in third.
Man, oh man, that pack really staying together here, though, it has to be said. And, you know, for all the hype around the Zesty Paws, we really need to, you know, not that you'd hope for a caution, but I want to see the turtle at some point.
Yeah, I haven't exactly received any word about any of that earlier on, so we shouldn't say we're hoping for a incident-related yellow down the line, but of course, maybe it's safe to assume that someone got it at some point. Maybe it's worth it to, you know.
I mean, I don't know if you do it just to do it. I mean, as much as we love our friends at Little Rescue, you know, there's a time and a place for everything.
We'll just wait and see how this goes. Remember how Texas and Martinsville played, and even Atlanta, the past couple of weeks has had its fair share of late race chaos, and we know about the history of Charlotte, of course, in recent years. You know, 2 years ago at the World 300, and then the Piping Kettle 300 last year. Actually, to be fair, for last year's running of this race, ended up being strategy and not chaos that helped Andy Hurdle to a first career win on this series. Of course, he is not with us tonight, so someone else might capitalize on that. But knowing how the past couple of weeks have gone and all the wall hits that have been occurring, there's still been some close action despite this next-gen update. You never know what could happen. It is the World 300, sponsored by Zesty Paws, of course.
Yeah, these guys aren't leaving an inch chance here.
That was a squeeze between CD Magrum and Kyle Knoll.
And again, those are a couple other guys who have a little bit of history with one another, to put it lightly.
Yeah, the number 15 starting in 16th. Highest position of third. He's currently in 6th, ahead of Mason Tomlinson, still looking to battle it out with CD Magrum.
Yeah, I mean, everyone's staying relatively close here in the early going. Everyone who's on the lead lap right now is within just over 2 seconds. That's one down to Matt McDonald in 15th.
And these guys have been staying surprisingly close for the most part to start this final stage.
Yeah, well, I mean, everything to play for here now. It's not like you're just settling into a position here, so to speak. Like, now we're into the tangible stuff. This is the nitty-gritty here.
Oh, trouble! There it is, wrecking down the back stretch. Couple cars pile in. Kyle Knowles and Mark Roulette gets involved. Jose Mercado as well.
Oh.
Yellow. Darcy 4-2. Oh, man.
Yeah. That's more like a yell no in his case. And we'll get another look here. So, yeah, you'll see some contact on that back straight, and that's what's gonna trigger everything. But we'll get the more definitive look from your side.
So we'll look at the TrackCams22.com replay to see how all that went down. Essentially the first big one of the night. Oh yeah, Mercado and Knoll got together. 41 up the hill. Ford as well. Marini collected. Ercolani with a touch. Good avoidances by McCauley and McDonald. Not so much for Mark Roulette towards the back. So we got a bit of a better idea as these cars go through turns 1 and 2. And down the back, yeah, it looks like Mercado up into Knoll, and then just a chain reaction and chaos.
And Marini kind of gets the sweeper arm there from behind. And let's just see. Maybe I think Dan Cudmore might be getting the turtle here this time around, as you know, the sponsor namesake disconnects. Mark Ouellette will be the next retirement.
Did he get a lap back?
I think he was one lap down at the time, and he's going to be on the lead lap now.
Sure. Turtle.
I mean, again, it sucks that it comes at the expense of the Little Rescue livery.
Yeah, that's unfortunate. They're trying to go back to the replay and get a better idea of how this all played out. Okay, we'll have to go one more lap. Or two?
Yeah, well,
okay,
you got
still
time. Pace car lights are still on, so...
Okay, we'll try right here from a far chase angle, Mercado, just to see, did Knoll come down, Mercado up? Was it both? It might have been a bit of both.
Yeah, well, I mean, it wasn't ideal either way.
Okay,
To
we'll
put it mildly.
see here in slower motion. Yeah, Knoll just barely down, and then Mercado was up. Eesh.
Yeah, just... Again, we mentioned it earlier. They're two guys that don't necessarily leave a lot of space for each other. And it doesn't take much for something like that to happen. Not that we're suggesting anything like that, but just a context clue. But yeah, just didn't work out in either.
I think you can see Knoll's car. Like, he was trying to keep the wheels straight and everything, but the car kind of took a bit of a... almost a sharp left there. And then, of course... causes that big wreck.
Yeah, and I mean, let's see where humidity is 89% right now, so definitely a little more slick too.
So there it is, your first big wreck of the night. Hopefully not a foreshadow of what's to come to end this one off, as just as we get back here, the lights are off and the pace car ready to roll back to pit road. And we'll be going back to Greenwood. Jared Ireland and C.D. Mangrum on the front row. Not a lot of cars left if you look towards the back. But anyways, back to Green Flag Racing on lap 167. Nearing 30 laps to go in the Zesty Paws 300.
And yeah, decent start from Ireland once he took the green. But you know, that's the two blue-collar boys working together here. 1-2. Right off the restart, but you know Scott Bailey won't want to let his teammate get away that easily. It's still every man for themselves out there.
And how about Jason Butler in fifth?
All right, that's a sneaky one, certainly. Not one that we necessarily would have forecasted. However, he's a guy who can, well, if we're going to promo E-Motorsports Network Classic Races, he is a guy who can strangely find himself at the right place at the right time. And he's flying.
And for the record, this is his 110th career NASCAR Series start. So,
without a win in any of them.
Yeah, exactly. Imagine if he were able to pull off something here again. Knowing these drivers and how they put their pit stops together, they did take advantage of that with their strategy. Of course, Scott Bailey on a 4-lap stint, Jared Ireland at 16, so he didn't come down with these guys. Butler and pretty much everyone else still remaining on the track did. Daniel Cudmore even charging his way up as well. There's a pair of pioneers of the E-Motorsports Network challenging some of these boys.
Well, now, this is suddenly way more interesting than it already was. Because, again, you've got a real mix of guys out here, and we talk about it every week where it feels like anyone can win on any given night. Charlotte's kind of the ultimate proving ground of that. So the fact that we're seeing a bit of a mix in the field here, I like it, Riggs.
Butler with a top 10 finish back in the GTR 250, 7th to be exact, ever since. Has gotten he got a top 15 1 week later at Auto Club. Ever since then, only a best finish of 16th, 22nd back in Martinsville the previous week. And of course, the two of Daniel Cudmore coming off his first top 10 result of season number 6. Of course, the driver taking a break from the network in season 5, a well-deserved break nonetheless, and trying to come back and make a big impact in his return to the network. And right here in the Zesty Paws 300, which, by the way, Cudmore, a former top 10 finisher in this series. Where are my notes? There they are. Cudmore having finished 8th in his last start here. In this race, to be specific. So he's finished 8th twice before and then 20th in another year. So he knows how to get it done at this track. But man, oh man, if it would be a top 5 or a podium, this would be huge.
I mean, certainly an early pace advantage, it would appear, for the 2 and the 10 coming off of this restart. But yeah, we'll have to see if these two can catch Ireland and Bailey here to try and pull that gap down a little bit to really make things interesting here as we're coming up on 27 to go.
This makes me wonder if these guys other than Ireland could be able to stretch this out.
Well, that's exactly what I was thinking. We were saying 28 to 32 was the projected fuel window. We've seen guys come in earlier than that largely over the course of the evening. But yeah, this could well be stretch territory.
I mean, remember last year, Andy Hurdle picking up his first career series win on fuel strategy, and he ran out on the cool-down lap, and oh man, Corbin McCauley with another big hit to the turn 4 wall on corner exit. But as I was saying, Hurdle ran out of fuel on the cool-down lap and had multiple cars bumping him back to the start-finish line to celebrate. As we're talking about all that, side by side, not anymore. Jared Ireland to the race lead once again, ahead of Scott Bailey. They'll be coming to 25 laps to go in the 4th and final stage, now halfway through.
And I'd have to wonder if they'll be trading places here potentially, just kind of working together as a unit to try and maximize that fuel conservation, particularly in that one case where the driver didn't fuel up on that last caution. Refresh my memory. Was that Ireland that didn't come in? Or was it Bailey? I can't remember.
It was Ireland. He's on a 23-lap stint. Pretty much everyone else is at 10 or 11.
So eventually you would think the track will come back to that chase pack with the exception of Scott Bailey. So maybe Ireland's helping to build that buffer right now, because I can't see the 13 being able to, stretch it out for, what would it be? 47, 48, somewhere in that ballpark.
Something like that. You see this whole train of cars here from Dan Cudmore on back, Jason Butler, Magerman, them. So I would imagine Ireland is hoping for maybe a late race yellow, because eventually, when he does have to come in, if everyone else tries to stretch this out, this means that the podium at the moment, the provisional podium, would be Scott Bailey, Daniel Cudmore, and Jason Butler. But as I'm saying that, here comes C.D. Magerman, Ty Higginbottom. There's a pair of Tornado Alley guys going up against the 519 Atlantic Motorsports driver.
Yeah, and it was their compadre Adam Wilson taken out in that incident back in stage 1, which feels like an eternity ago now. But his two teammates, they're repping pretty well here. Of course, Higginbotham with the stage win earlier in the evening.
Butler's having to hold off and let these guys go. I wonder if these guys might be using their stuff up a little too much in this one.
I mean, we talked about it a little bit earlier about how Dan Cudmore is usually
Butler in the wall.
Pseudo-conservative driver, and yeah, Butler would certainly fit that mold as well. But yeah, this might be a case where it was just too much like shot out of the cannon, so to speak, and now they might pay the price for it.
Butler has yet to finish 15th in any of the editions of the World 300. A best finish of 15th in Season 1. Of course, we talked earlier about Cudmore being a past top 10 finisher in this race. He's trying to hang on for a damn podium run here with now 20 laps to go in the Zesty Paws 300, trying to hang on over C.D. Magram, the Season 3 winner of this race, and then Ty Hingeman. There's a pair, or add McCauley in there. There's 3 past winners of this race going at it against the founder of the network.
Indeed they are, and yeah, this might be a case of just charging out of the gates a little too quickly as we see that wall
Butler
tap
to pit road.
Okay, so, well, 19 to go. Maybe there's a bit of a charge there, but I mean, at this point, we're assuming that that last caution allowed the lion's share of the field to be able to get to the end, but if they can't, there could be someone there to pounce.
I think Higginbottom might have squeezed Cudmore up into the wall there a little bit. As McCauley will now pounce, so will Raymond Hanneman, so Cudmore dropping back like a rock. Oh, Darcy Ford, lap car.
Oh, boy.
He's got damage. He's got damage on the front, particularly the right front. That had to make all these guys scramble, and it's allowed McCauley to go high on Higginbottom, coming to 17 laps to go. Go figure, car 17.
And, I mean, that was a thing we mentioned a number of times earlier in the race. That was out of 2 where they suddenly came up on Darcy Ford, and that was where some really heavy runs were coming earlier. So, yeah, it seems like it's still effective up there.
Jared Ireland just under 3 seconds ahead of Bailey, but he's at 31 laps on his current stint. Bailey and everyone else practically in 1918 or so. Bailey is just over a second ahead of this 4-car pack for 3rd place. Again, Jordy, just like how the end of last year's race played out, we don't know if these guys could be stretching to the end or maybe they might have to come down. It could be anyone's race at this point.
Absolutely, and just looking back at the incident a couple laps ago where Darcy Ford got caught up in the lead lap traffic, there was a little bit of a bump that from Higginbotham that sent Ford up, but the right front damage was already in place, so those two things were not connected. Speaking of not connected,
Higginbottom
Matt
had
McDonald. No, you go ahead.
Yeah, Matt McDonald now out of this race. So as I was saying there, Ty Higginbottom had to get off the throttle. That allows Raymond Hanneman to get past for 5th.
And there's Ireland to pit lane.
And so
we figured he wouldn't be able to stretch it. All right, boys, let's see what we can do here.
Indeed.
And Janikowski's going to come into pit lane in the background there as well. He's 4 laps down at the moment. And... oh, okay, so it was a permanent retirement from Thronberg earlier. Oh, boy.
The 17 to pit road with 13 laps remaining.
Let's just see. Like, again, we figured we'd be on the extreme end of a fuel window here. I don't know what tires were looking like necessarily. But, yeah, we'll see now that McCauley's a lap down in 11th. We'll see if we would assume there's some fresh rubber there for him to use. Drops down to 12th behind Ireland on rejoin.
Now 8/10 separating first, and the battle now for second. Here comes
but he's back in pit lane. Oh, no, I might not be live. Never mind.
No, he's
a
lap down. He's back on the track as Hanneman. We were talking about there, that battle for second. Hanneman clears the way in front of the number 1 Nordic Aluminium Toyota. So Tornado Alley 3 and 4, and now Raymond Hanneman for Eternal Racing in the Bell 85 Ford to second, just under 8/10 back of the 48. Now 10 laps to go in the 6th annual Zesty Paws 300. Excuse me. These guys still remaining here as the lead cars out front, 25, 26 lap stints or so. Can they stretch it, or will we see some of these guys dip to pit road and someone come out on top out of nowhere?
Well, I tell you, they're reeling Bailey in pretty quickly here. That gap was down to about half a second there just a moment ago. Now it's extended a little bit further. But, yeah, we'll have to, now that we're into single-digit laps remaining, just, if you're Scott Bailey, you just got to keep your eyes forward here. Just not think about too much, which he's always been good at doing. And, yeah, just not worry too much about anyone behind him, because only you can control your own race at this point.
Hanneman looking for what would be on intermediate tracks, back-to-back victories after his Texas win on a green-white checkered attempt 2 weeks ago. He is now just under half a second back of Scott Bailey, your winner from Atlanta 3 weeks ago. If these two stay out, if they have enough to get to the end, no late race yellow, it's every man for himself.
And certainly Hanneman's done well to drop Mangrum Higginbotham, excuse me, and it's been a long night, folks, and Tomlinson rounding out the top 5. So right now it looks like it's a 2-horse race, but we'll see if everyone comes together to provide some final lap fireworks.
Now, Scott Bailey is a former winner at Charlotte, but on the road course layout, the Roval layout, yes, from seasons 1 and 2 during the console era. But however, within iRacing, only wins at Auto Club and Auto Club and Atlanta. So he's won. He knows how to win. He knows how to win here, except it was on the Roval layout. But here on the oval side of things, of course, with the Zesty Paws 300, the World 300 still has yet to get that illustrious victory. But he could be coming to 5 laps away from it. However, he's got Raymond Hanneman, the hungry rookie, looking for 2 wins on the year, along with Bailey as well.
And, I mean, there's no question that Hanneman's going to push him if he can. And you see that gap dipping below half a second now, and they're coming up on lap traffic in the form of Mike Marini here, too.
Well, as long as that 12 car doesn't become a space shuttle again, then we're all good.
Yeah, funny how that works out.
Now 4 laps to go. It's down to almost 3/10 between the 48 and the 85. Could we begin shades of Ross Chastain and William Byron from the real-life Coca-Cola 600?
I mean, Hanneman's right there, isn't he, as
Hanneman
makes his way past Marini.
Hanneman might have gotten some help from Marini with that run down the back. Almost a 10th between the two of them, coming to 3 laps to go. Now it just might be a matter of dirty air, or just like real life between Chastain and Byron. Could we see these two drivers make it work against that?
Well, yeah, Hanneman pretty much just slingshotted off of Marini there, getting the benefit off of that draft on the back straight.
And Cudmore to pit road.
And there's that valiant effort down the drain with a couple laps remaining. But, yeah, I feel like the save is probably worked out here for our top 2 anyway.
Popsicle sticks in the air, 2 to go. These two drivers battling it out for a crown jewel victory as Hanneman gets the wall.
Oh. Yeah, that just be...
No, that didn't drop him back 2 out entirely. He's still well within this one with a lap and a half to go. Hanneman's trying to do it almost Kyle Larson style up high. Maybe might have a better corner exit with the run. As Scott Bailey gets the white flag.
Yeah, and quarter of a second now between Bailey and Hanneman. It feels like it has to boil down to a Bailey mistake unless, well, if it doesn't, then I feel like 48's got this, but we'll see what Hanneman has as a bit of a last gasp here.
Last chance for the rookie to try and tame the veteran through 3 and 4 for the final time. It looks like it's not going to be enough, so your new winner of the Zesty Paws 300 will be the 48 of Scott Bailey.
And yeah, he persevered. I said it earlier. I called him a sort of the ultimate endurance driver within the series here. The guy that's, is content wherever he happens to be in the field, always confident in his abilities. And look at that. It's kind of proven itself to be true once again and able to hold off that late charge, although we never really saw them door to door. But yeah, ultimately, here we are again. Scott Bailey, multiple-time race winner.
The driver from Allendale, Michigan for Blue Collar Racing, driving for Coors Light. Second win on the year, and first time a winner on the Charlotte Oval. Third time winner in any form at the Charlotte Motor Speedway, and on the all-time wins list. That actually keeps him safer now in second place with now 13 total victories, now back to 2 ahead of the 00 of Jordan Kalinian.
Yeah, and certainly a well-deserved victory. This was a night where, he was able to stay out of trouble. We know that he had a couple of races where that wasn't necessarily the case early on in the year, but if he's able to keep the nose of that number 48 Chevy pointed forward, he's always a threat regardless of the track, and you just saw evidence of that here again tonight.
From a podium finish 2 years ago in the World 300, third place to be exact behind Corbin McCauley and Justin Malmoney, to now a win on one of the biggest stages here within the E-Motorsports Network NASCAR Series, the Zesty Paws 300 at Charlotte Motor Speedway. The second now multi-time race winner on the year, joining Jordan Kalinian now, so that'll be 2 wins within 4 races for the 48, not counting if he started or not, just 4 races in general. But now, of course, Kalinian and Bailey combining for 3 of the last 4 victories on the year. We have an angle of victory lane. The 48 has disappeared out of the server, but I don't know. In your imagination, plop a 48 car in there.
Exactly. I mean, this is one that I would have to imagine he'll savor, particularly after, a couple of weeks off in there as well. Didn't necessarily, he did get a decent result there. Top 5 last week upon return at Martinsville, and only missed the Texas race. So this is 2 wins and 3 starts here for the number 48.
Yes, sir. How about that? And, funny enough, too, this is going to be your second time interviewing him, but my first, since I wasn't at Atlanta. So, obviously, for someone like him, knowing everything that went down at Atlanta a couple weeks back, this one was, there was a lot of pressure in this one still, but that one maybe a little bit less chaotic, but still, though, lots of pressure, and he had to defend himself from a rookie on the series nonetheless. And is it fair to assume that you two used Discord to do your whole little deal last time?
He's good with it, yes. He'll be good with Discord. Like, it took me some time to figure it out. That's why I posted it as a separate thing afterward. But he'll be fine with Discord just as long as my own technology doesn't decide to be a moron.
So, would he have awareness to go into there right now? As I'm in the chat at the...
I will make him aware.
That sounds good. Now, even though technically the post-race results would come through with the Valvoline Instant Oil Change post-race show, we'll just get them done and quickly over with right now, and then we'll get into everything else later on, including updates on the in-season tournament presented by Forked River Brewing Company. We might as well just get through the results very quickly right now. Of course, the 48 of Scott Bailey picking up the victory here tonight in a great battle with Raymond Hanneman for second place. C.D. Magram in third, rounding out the podium. Ty Higginbottom in behind him. A pair of Tornado Alley racing guys there, third and fourth. Ty Higginbottom fourth. No doubt that those two results right there are certainly going to help out in Tornado Alley Racing's current lead in the the team standings. I don't know how I got those mixed up. But anyways, Mason Tomlinson with a top 5 finish in his second ever start in the 300. 10th place last year, 5th place this time around, so 5 positions up. How about that? Jose Mercado in 6th. Mario Ercolini, now another top 10 on the year. 2 top 10s within the last 3 races for him, I believe, so 7th place for him. How about that? Last car on the lead lap too, so even better. And then you see Jared Ireland, Mike Marini, and Corbin McCauley in behind, where, man, oh man, we saw Ireland running up front there, and we thought he had the chance to win, but the strategies were a little bit different with everyone, so Ireland still coming home with a strong run, and McCauley definitely would have wanted something better than 10th, but again, just a lot going on for him. And then the rest of the way, Jason Butler and Daniel Cudmore, we saw them running up front there, potentially for podium and or top 5 finishes here tonight, but unfortunately, it seems like they might have used their equipment up just a little too much in the late going. They are routed back to 11th and 12th, but still very solid runs for the two of them. Kyle Knoll, 13. We saw him running up front earlier, but wound up towards the back of the pack, middle, really. Darcy Ford, 14. Tom Janikowski in the Zesty Paws, 93 and 15th. Matt McDonald, that's a tough one there in 16th, getting almost caught up in that wreck earlier, but then something else going on later on, and we saw him running up front, consistent top 10 driver there throughout the earlier stages, but just nothing was able to come through for him in the end. Mark Goulet, 17th. Rookie Blake Throneberry, 18th. Charlie Sears, 19th. That's another heartbreaker for the number 32. We saw him running up as high as 3rd, but again, the bad luck continues. He'll look to turn that around at the track he won at last year at Monza. Ryan O'Toole rounds out the top 20, 120 laps down, and then just 3 big names here towards the bottom of the charts, and Jordan Kalinian, Adam Wilson, and Justin Belmonte rounding at the 23 car field for tonight's Zesty Paws 300. And now, Jordy, we will head on over to Discord. Mr. Scott Bailey, do we have a copy?
Yeah, I got you, Regan.
Well, my friend, congratulations on your second win on the season here for season number 6 of the E-Motorsports Network NASCAR Series on iRacing. Your third time visiting victory lane in some capacity at Charlotte Motor Speedway, but this time around, after all the Roval wins in the first couple of seasons, now picking up a illustrious win in the 300 of all races here. How about that here in this the longest race of each season here for the NASCAR Series, and hanging on over a hungry rookie in Raymond Hanneman, looking for 2 wins within 3 weeks. He was all over there. He had that chance, but you were able to hang on. Just talk about what it means to pick up another win here. Maybe a little bit less chaotic than Atlanta, but still lots of pressure in the late going of tonight's event.
Yeah, honestly, there was a lot going on. I mean, obviously we got the new car build this week, so car feels completely different than what I'm used to. So just trying to work through that. I didn't get a ton of practice time this week, so feeling out the tires and how they wear. And then there was just a lot of up and downs. I mean, on the initial start of the race, I had guys wrecking in front of me, got damaged, had to fix it, started from the back. So just work. It was a very up and down race. So I was actually glad it was the longest race because I needed that full length to be able to get back up front there. But yeah, the final stage, we had to save about 3 laps of fuel there to make it to the end. So I knew I wanted to get out front early just to get in clean air. So that's where I could save fuel the best. So I was just kind of watching my mirror, saving as much as I needed to, and watching if they were starting to come at me, then I'd pick up my pace a little bit. So kind of a cat and mouse game.
Indeed, and of course, drivers going into tonight's event with this whole big next gen update, talking about the dirty air and how the car, the tight cars going into tonight's race. But you guys were still able to make things work, kind of like shades of real life with the Coca-Cola 600. Guys like Ross Chastain, William Byron, all of them. Like, you guys were still able to put on some really, really good battles and make it work against some of the challenges of this update, trying to make the next gen more like its real life counterpart. Just talk a little more about along with the rest of the field, trying to make it work and putting on these exciting battles, putting on a great show for all of us.
Yeah, I mean, I think the feel of the car is great. The setup, at least at Charlotte, was really tight. So you could damage the tires really easily. And I found that out in one stage. I pushed too hard in the top lane for maybe 5 laps, and it wrecked that entire tire run, just because you can overheat the tires really quick now. You used to be able to push a lot harder and not do so much damage. So I actually like that, because I prefer there to be some fall off and some penalty for pushing too hard early. So we just got to get used to it. Kind of remember how to drive these, because they drive a little bit more like the older generation cars now. But hopefully not all the setups aren't as tight as Charlotte was, but that was pretty tough trying to drive it off the right front.
Now, I know that your previous win before this season, back in season 4 at Auto Club, that allowed you to get into the Championship 4 and to go on to win the E-Motorsports Network NASCAR Series Championship and the 4th Annual Earl Ross Cup. Despite that, I can only imagine a crown jewel win like this in the Zesty Paws 300, otherwise known as the World 300 here at Charlotte, must definitely rank up there as well. What does it mean to pick up a big race win like this?
Oh, it's huge. This is a pretty grueling race. 2.5 hours. Can't imagine what it's like in real life running 600 miles, but yeah, as far as the sim rate goes, it's nice to get that big win, right? Obviously the championship was awesome, but this is a new season, going for another championship. Love to pick up kind of those, like you said, those crown jewel type victories.
Absolutely, and joining Jordan Kalinian now as the next driver with multiple wins on the year for season number 6. And Jordy, of course, you're now talking with this guy for the second time. This is my first time. You were alone there for Atlanta, so what do you have for the 48 of Scott Bailey and your second go around with him?
Well, I've got a clearer head in asking questions. I think Scotty will know that for sure. That was a little bit rough, to say the very least, but yeah, I think the majority of the field would probably have a similar sentiment, given how the last couple of weeks have gone as well. But I want to go back to something that you were talking about at the start of our chat here, and you mentioned needing a little bit more time to get the feel of the new build, given all the updates that happened over the last week. Is it fair to say that the first stage, maybe even first 2 stages of tonight, served more or less as a test run in prep for how the ending was going to go down?
Oh, for sure. I mean, that was my practice session, because I didn't get much laps in. I got a lot going on right now at home, so it's hard for me to practice as much as I need to, especially with a new build like that. It takes time to figure these cars out when they change that much. So first 2 stages, I was just kind of feeling it out. Like I said, got in that accident early on lap 1, so I had to start from the back. So I knew I wasn't gonna win a stage or anything. I was just trying to see how hard I could push without killing the tires. And in the second stage, I found out, the second run of the first stage, I pushed too hard, and it just got super tight. So then I was like, man, I got to save a set of tires. So the second stage, I didn't take any tires. I just took fuel only, so I'd have an extra set. I didn't end up needing them, but if I would have needed them, they would have helped a lot. So.
Yeah, and you mentioned being caught up in some of the early incidents that happened and, maybe being well, not necessarily thrown off, but certainly pushed to the back. But one of the things I was saying over the course of the evening is that it seems like out of the drivers within the series, you seem like you're the best equipped to handle these quote unquote endurance races or something that really requires a bit of patience to move through the field. So, because we talked about that after Atlanta as well. So, what is it about your approach to this series and iRacing in general that allows you to sort of be able to pick and choose when you make your move and have it be effective?
Yeah, I mean, I'm always thinking like I've always been a strategic racer, I'll say. So I'm always constantly thinking about fuel mileage. I mean, anytime we're under caution, I'm saving fuel. I don't care if I need to or not. I'm always saving fuel. Just trying to think of any way possible. And then as a race goes on, like tonight especially, because I didn't get a ton of practice, I'm just trying to feel the car, feel what lines I can run that don't kill the tires as much, and then slowly build towards the end, because you can't tweak on these cars with the fixed setup, but you can at least kind of learn throughout the race, how the tires are reacting. I just try not to get too excited, right? If somebody's battling me really hard early in a run, a lot of times I'll just let them go, and I'll fall in behind them and just ride, so I'm not killing my tires, and just hopefully I'll get them back later. But it's usually not worth it to try and dig as hard as possible next to somebody for 2 laps, 3 laps.
Yeah, I think it's fair to say in the time that I've known you, Scott Bailey and Overexcited don't necessarily mesh. So completely understand your assessment and outlook there. As the end result of it, of course, was win number 13 in your career in the E-Motorsports Network NASCAR Series, but perhaps a little bit of help from your teammate in car 13, that being Jared Ireland, as you guys were running 1-2 for a good chunk of stage 4 before Ireland had to come into pit lane. So being able to, it looked like you guys were working with him a little bit, or you two were working together, perhaps, to help you save.
No, I mean, it did help me a little bit. I got a tow down the straightaways from him, but I feel gutted for him. I think he was faster than me tonight, but he got put in a spot where we had a caution, 10 laps into a run, and it was a stretch to make it from there. So it was either you stay out or you pit, and the rest of the field's probably going to do the opposite, and that's what happened. So he knew he couldn't make it. He had to pit, so I just kind of let him go. I just wanted to get a little bit out in front of the field so I could kind of monitor that gap as I was saving fuel. So I pushed for a couple laps just to get a second and a half out, and then he made his way back up and just kind of let him go and took a tow for about 10 laps.
And as we're looking at kind of the mathematical component, when did you know you were good to get to the end?
I was running, I ran the same lap, 30.3 for like 15 laps straight. At that point, I was a lap to the good. So I was just kind of keeping an eye on the guys behind me, because I could tell if they were going to start pushing, they'd pick up 2-3 tenths. That's why I kept like a second to a second and a half. So I could tell when the 85 started pushing, then I started picking up my pace just to try and keep that gap.
Yeah, and
I ended with, I think I was a lap to the good at the end.
Yeah, and obviously the save wound up working for you here again, as you're our second multiple race winner of the season now. So again, I find myself saying well done to you on that, as I go ahead and throw it back to Reegs before I step over any more of your answers here.
No problem.
Alrighty, thanks very much, Jordy. Again, of course. So now with tonight done and over with, and of course being halfway, or technically just beyond halfway through this sixth season of NASCAR racing, of course. Regular season winding down towards the 6th annual Earl Russ Cup playoffs set to begin August 4th at Bristol Motor Speedway, of course. Fighting up the next Zesty Paws, or no, the final race for the Zesty Paws challenge in there, which I suppose you may possibly have the lead or be close to the lead for the challenge going into the next round at the Chicago Street Course on July 14th. But with Charlotte now done and over with tonight, next Monday night you head to Monza for some more international racing for the Pizza Main 180, 31 laps there in Italy. This will be your first time going there, I believe, as a matter of fact. So have you at all looked back at how the race went last year, getting kind of an idea how things may play out next Monday, and how do you translate the success here that you've had recently on the ovals now over to a road course like Monza internationally?
I have not looked at the race from last year. I will probably struggle a little bit next week, just because I'm in the middle of moving houses, and I'm sure I'm not going to get much practice in. So I've run Monza before, but not with this car, especially not with this build. So there's definitely going to be a learning curve for me. So it might be one of those start from the back and learn my way through the race, and hopefully be close at the end. But yeah, I mean, it's a relief to get this win going into a road course like that, where, like I said, I just don't have a ton of experience and a ton of time on my hands to get some laps in.
Yeah, I was going to say you have these 2 recent wins wrapped up, done and over with, and all these points added up, so still some good momentum going and a bit of relief going in, right?
That's for sure.
All right, to wrap this thing up, this will be my first time hearing this part of the interview, second time majority. Who gets a thanks once again for being able to come on out every Monday night when you can and get the job done?
Yeah, sure. I want to thank my wife. She watches sometimes, but she allows me, like I said, got a busy life, and she allows me to jump on here every Monday night and take care of the kids while I have fun, I guess. And then also my teammates, Jared, he helps me a ton. We help each other all the time, trying to get better, whether it's in the race or in practice. And then the teammates that aren't on track I usually got a spotter every week. Somebody's always jumping in and spotting for me, helping with fuel mileage calculations, stuff like that. So I want to thank the team, and for sure thank you guys. I mean, you put on a hell of a show. Do a great job with the broadcast, and I appreciate watching it back every week.
Sounds good. That was the driver of the 48 Blue Collar Racing Coors Light Chevrolet out of Allendale, Michigan, picking up his second win on Season 6 of the E-Motorsports Network NASCAR Series on iRacing, and career win number 13 all time. Once again, Scott, congratulations. Series champion, now a crown jewel race winner. We will see you back at hopefully next Monday night at Monza.
All right, thanks. Have a good night, guys.
You as well. And now into the Valvoline Instant Oil Change post-race show. We already went through the unofficial results for tonight's Zesty Paws 300, but might as well take a quick glance here at how the Fort River Brewing Company in-season tournament was heading into tonight, and looking at the 8 remaining drivers that will be down to 4. I think by the looks of it, this would mean Mason Tomlinson will be up against Scott Bailey, and C.D. Magram will be up against Mario Ercolini.
Yeah, that's what we expected here, I think, certainly. Maybe a hint of sarcasm there, but I mean, certainly we saw a lot of stuff happen over the course of the evening. I love the fact that Bailey Hanneman quarter wound up being 1-2 in the race. That's what draws my eye here straight away.
Yep, that one battle ended up being the 1-2 fight for the win in tonight's race at Charlotte Motor Speedway. And of course, for the Zesty Paws Challenge, the first winner of it is Scott Bailey here in tonight's race on June 16th. We'll see if he can go 2 for 2 on the streets of Chicago on July 14th and then make his way to a potential iRacing gift card reward at Bristol Motor Speedway for the Zesty Paws 250 on August 4th. So again, in another month's time or so, we'll be back at it with another race presented by Tom Janikowski and the fellows at Zesty Paws. But with all that being said, back in the broadcast booth here very quickly, Jordy, man, oh man, what a show we had here tonight. You know, there was a lot of uncertainty and maybe not a whole lot of positivity going into the night considering the big change, the iRacing update with the next gen, the new package setup, all that, blah, blah, blah. But these guys were still able to pull things together, and some guys even liked how the setup was. And, of course, we had our comers and goers. We had drivers that really capitalized on this whole thing, drivers that didn't have as much luck. There were a lot of wall hits. It kind of felt like it was almost like Darlington here tonight many times. But, of course, a bit of a break compared to what we've had the past couple of weeks at, Atlanta and Texas and Martinsville and such. Still, a very, very intense race, lots of battles, lots of door-to-door action. These guys made it work against the dirty air and the tight setups, I must say. It continued to add on to the history of some phenomenal crown jewel races that we've had here at the Charlotte Motor Speedway.
All things considered, tonight felt like a return to form for the series after a few chaotic weeks, to say the very least. And, it was good to see the lion's share of the field adapting to the update the way it did. Because, as you rightly mentioned, it felt like there might be times where maybe guys weren't sure about how it was feeling. Some of the guys let their complaints be heard over the course of the week. But, as guys adapted to it and got comfortable with each other under these new setups, it wound up producing an entertaining product. And, this is a really solid start to the second half of the season, I've got to say.
Absolutely, and you say, returning back to the regular form that we are meant to have here within the E-Motorsports Network NASCAR Series on iRacing. Really, tonight's show just went to show the racecraft and the talent, the parity that we have here within our field. But with all that being said, that was tonight's live coverage of the Zesty Paws 300 at Charlotte Motor Speedway, round number 8 of 21 on the season. And next up for round number 9 and the penultimate race for the Fort River Brewing Company in-season tournament. We're heading overseas this time instead of up north of the border from the United States into Canada. This time around, it's overseas to Monza in Italy for the Pizza Main 180, 31 laps, of course, next Monday night, June 23rd, going there for the second year in a row. And, of course, we get the flashbacks, Jordy, to how last year's battle for the win played out between rookie and IndyCar Series champion Charlie Sears up against the eventual championship runner-up for the NASCAR Series and Jordan Kalinian. What an exciting duel that was. What could we have in store for next Monday this year?
Well, the funny thing is, if you're Scott Bailey, it means you're avoiding a semifinal matchup with Jordan Kalinian on a road course in the in-season tournament. So
yes,
that would have been fun had that played out, but unfortunately we're robbed of that. But, a second road course of the season, I think, you'll probably wind up seeing the guys you would typically get towards the head of the field on your road courses back up there. I would expect Kalinian to be back in the mix after narrowly missing out last year. Maybe this is where Charlie Sears finally gets his groove back. It was looking really good there for a time tonight, but wound up having issues, obviously. And I mean, that's to say nothing of Scott Bailey's prowess on road courses as well, as a multiple-time winner in the past. So there's lots of different angles this could go. And, I think we might need to brush up on the Italian. I think it might be the Pizza Mane might be the sponsorship. Feels maybe if not stereotypical, it feels like it should be kind of in place for that. I don't know. But either way, I think, pardon the pun, but it'll be a slice.
Hardy har har.
Thank you.
So yes, that it will be our return to Monza for a second consecutive year and season next Monday night, June 23rd, 7:30 p.m. Eastern, 8:30 p.m. Atlantic. Just past that time, we will be live on the E-Motorsports Network YouTube channel for live coverage of round number 9 on Season 6 of the E-Motorsports Network NASCAR Series on iRacing. We'll see if Scott Bailey can add a 5th road course win to his illustrious NASCAR Series resume. Again, he is now a series champion and a crown jewel race winner. So, again, that does it for another live production of the E-Motorsports Network on iRacing. That was the Zesty Paws 300 at Charlotte Motor Speedway. Congratulations to the 48 of Scott Bailey on win number 2 on the season and career win number 13. My name is Regan McCauley. That was Jordy Kerher on behalf of us and the rest of the E-Motorsports Network, sponsors, partners, competition committee, drivers, everyone involved in making this happen. Thank you very much for tuning in to tonight's incredible crown jewel show that we witnessed here in Concord, North Carolina, and we will see you all back at it for another Monday of E-Motorsports Network NASCAR Series action on iRacing overseas at Monza.
And don't forget, EMSN Classic Races premieres tomorrow morning, 9 a.m. Eastern Standard Time on YouTube.
Yes, sir. Be there. Tune in to episode number 1 of the Classic Races series. Take care, folks. Enjoy that video, and see you as well next Monday night once again.